The competitive Smash scene ended in a rough spot at the end of 2022. No more circuits, no more official support, back to the grassroots style the scene has been in since its inception. But with all that said, 2023 proved one thing. Competitive Smash wasn't going anywhere.
It's talking about how frustrating it is. You can't tell.
How is he doing that?
Is that it?
Well, there, that'll do it.
Oh my God!
He wants to get the web.
The positioning is so good for Boots on the fight. He's able to start a combo here.
It's up there.
This year was stacked with major events, player stories, and complete power-shifting dynamics of some games' metas. And today, we're going to cover all of it. Well, most of it. But there's something I missed at the end of 2022, and I need to remedy that mistake first. Also, please consider subscribing. This stuff takes me a while. Okay, thanks, bye.
Oh, that shit. Give me one, give me. Oh, ain't nothing like a give me.
Before we get into 2023, there are two invitational events I missed at the end of 2022. The first is an Ultimate Invitational Japan run by the organizer of the Maisuma Top Series, Maida-kun. This event was Japan 24, featuring a mix of Japanese top talent and online Wi-Fi warriors in the region. The invitational would be taken by Japan's current ongoing #1 player in 2022, Aquila, who didn't face much adversity until Grand Finals against Japan's newest rising star, Mia. But the true highlight breakout run of this event goes to the new face bringing a fresh take on an old classic. After a tough first day in pools, only going 2-3 and having to start in losers the next day, Tsubaki came into the limelight with his flashy Joker, taking wins over notable Japanese talent such as Ashimo, Rizeyasu, and Masha, but ultimately falling to Kame Misoro. Keep this player's name in mind though as we go on, as this event won't be Tsubaki's one-hit wonder. The other invitational was in New York, a melee event hosted by longtime community member and legend Homemade Waffles, or now known as Young Waff. This event featured 10 invited players and 3 qualifiers from the East Coast and West Coast online event series that Young Waff runs. Even with some of the best in the world in attendance, with Zayn and Cody Schwab as frontrunners to take the event, the player that took home the gold was unexpected, and the character he used to win was unorthodox. Aquila was an up-and-coming Fox player from New York last year and during online events of the pandemic. While he always showed the potential, nothing would compare to the insane run he went at this event. He cleanly swept his pool, beating Fiction, Zuppy, and Zelot. But in the final bracket, Aquila would beat Swift, Magi, and Cody to make grand finals. Meeting him there was another major bracket threat, Kodorin, a player who came close to making the top 10 last year. Now, Fox players over the years have started to not like fighting against Marth as much as in the post-pandemic era. Some have even started using a whole new character instead of continuing to play the matchup. Aquila's Fox got swept in the first set of grants. But Aquila isn't just known for his Fox. He didn't play characters who did well versus Marth like Sheik or Pikachu. In fact, lurking much lower on the tier list is where he found success.
Oh my God, that's it. What? No way. No way. Oh! Oh, wow. Bro. What? Off the top five. Oh my God, everything on the wall. That could be it. And that down air. Oh, with the bomb down air. New York City, this is your hero.
Aquila won the Invitational with his Link in a close 3-2 set, giving Link the character's biggest event win to date and making his mark in Melee history. Alright, with those two events now covered, let's jump right into it. Here is competitive Smash Bros. In 2023.
He was getting forward air because of his fastball. He was getting.
Smash looked like it was in a rough spot going into 2023. With the loss of both the Smash World Tour and the Panda Cup, the scene was back to ground zero in terms of financial backing. But just like the grassroots days, that doesn't stop the scene from playing their game. Despite everything that happened at the end of 2022, Smash Ultimate's year started off with two of the biggest events of the year right off the bat, on the same weekend. First off in the Big Apple, Let's Make Big Moves 2023. After being affected in size due to COVID last year, Let's Make Big Moves came back with top players across the states flying out to compete. This tournament had it all. We had electric losers runs from upcoming players such as Snake Extraordinaire Kronos, who got sent to losers before top 128, but took wins on incredibly big names such as Meister, Leon, and Zamba to make it all the way to 13th. We had career-defining runs, with MK Big Boss making top 8 and open bracket major for the first time since 2021, defeating strong players such as Sonics, Cola, and Anathema for 7th. We had career-defining sets, with Tweak beating MKLeo's Joker for the first time ever since last facing it at Frostbite in 2020. MKLeo didn't really utilize Joker in the post-pandemic timeframe outside of rare occurrences. With how dominant it was back in 2019, Tweak finally overcoming that hill was a tremendous feat. And Sox took his first set against MKLeo at an offline tournament, ending his own run with a very strong third-place finish.
And then Spargo run 2 in a row from losers.
Yep, it was
right.
Yep.
So just showing that as time goes on, Spargo seems to be a little bit stronger, a little bit more durable.
But the top two of this event continued the streak from 2022. Both in Winners Finals and Grand Finals, two players who have already played 5 times in the past month prior to this event in similar circumstances. Tweak and Spargo met in Winter Finals once more, with Spargo being up 4-1 in the past month and 8-5 lifetime. Spargo was already looking like he would be the best player in the world going into 2023, but with the amount of encounters these two have had in such a brief amount of time, Tweak had little time to adapt a new game plan. Winning this would be tough. Tweak would take the first set in Winners Finals in a close 3-2 fashion. Afterward, Spargo defeated Sonics and climbed right back into Grands. Now, Tweak will need to prove he can do it again, and having already faltered at main stage in the same position a month ago, the pressure was on. So, only one question remained. Could Tweak not only finally defeat Spargo again, but also would he win his first Super Major since February 2019, 2 months after Smash Ultimate released?
Probably going to come out here from the Tweak if he can figure out a way to get his hands on him. It ain't going to be in this game. High on that platform, has him caught in the corner. Wants to stay right up into the shade of that platform.
What's the finisher afterward?
Up tilt. Banana pill on the left. Wait a minute. Who's that first?
Out here, they've been getting back to stage, showing some real creative recoveries.
He's trying to infect it. Now you have to worry about air dodging through a meat and then not slipping on the banana pill and not getting grabbed. Oh, going behind her, that's going to be it. The forward smash on the parry. Oh, but no down tilt.
Dude, this is so close. And you know what, man? I still feel like it's not over for Spargo. There is a universe in which he wins this, but it's not going to be this one.
I don't know if it's this one, man. I talked to Dr. Strange. I don't know if it's this one. Not again.
That's it! Tweak is your Let's Make Big Moves champion!
Tweak does it, shutting out Spargo before a reset could even happen. Tri-State remains undefeated in terms of defending its home turf, without losing a single Let's Make Big Moves since Ultimate's release. The same weekend was a return of a classic series in Japan. Luminosity came back with its 9th iteration after a long hiatus since 2019. And similar to North America for Let's Make Big Moves, Japan showed up, hitting the 1,024 player attendance cap. The first international player to travel abroad to Japan since the pandemic ended was Aaron, a well-established Diddy player from the US. Despite his strong showings in the US, Japan proved a bit of a shock. He took strong wins over Japanese talent such as Jagaimo, the best Palutena player in Japan, and Hikaru, a solid top 50 player known for his multitude of characters. But he ended up getting surprised by Japanese depth, with Tora sending him to losers before top 48. He managed to get the top 32 in losers, but got hit with another Japan depth player, losing to Ice Climbers main Harasen in a close Game 5 set. With all of the top Japanese talent in attendance, the standout run of this event goes to Tora. Tora is a solid Samus player who had this big breakout here, making top 8 his first major ever, and what an event to do it at. As stated earlier, he defeated US Invader Aaron, the best Sheik in the world AIM, and strong Japanese depth such as Tsunea and Munikin to make top 8 in losers. There, he took a set against Atelier, but lost to Kameme the next round, taking a big 5th place at the event. The winner of the event was none other than Akala. It seemed after Akala's rough side Bugeki at the end of 2022, where he placed out of the top 8 for the first time in his offline career, his resurgence and dominance over Japan came back swiftly. Between this and Japan 24, Akala already sported 2 major wins in the competitive season, and it wouldn't be long until we see how Akala fared once again in the States. Another year means, of course, another Genesis. The NorCal Premier event returns once again as one of the pinnacle international events for Melee and Ultimate. Ultimate had what is always expected at these large crossover events. The bracket prior to top 8 was filled with a litany of crazy upsets. Sonics had another career-defining win this month. He upset Spargo to make top 8, getting his first win over the Mexican Prodigy. Mars, Cosmos, and Ouch all had strong losers runs to 9th. New Japanese talent came out to the US for the first time, and while Sigma and Repo had unexpected underperformances, Now had an incredible surprise run, taking a solid 13th. But the main highlight of this tournament came from the best Peach player in the world, Mutace. The run into top 64 was already a tough draw, having to face the Mr. Game & Watch player Monte, one of SoCal's best. But Mutace overcame the bad matchup, just to get the same one from a much stronger player. Next on deck was Meister, a player Mutace has never beaten before. But once again, Mutace overcame the bad matchup, with an unprecedented 3-1 win. And even after that, Mutace then had to face Japan's best, Akala, one of the players most expected to be seen in Grand Finals. They have faced off before at Let's Make Moves Miami last year, where they ended up trading sets. So this was certainly doable, albeit difficult. And once again, Mute won 3-1. All that was left to make top 8, yeah, not even to win the event, but just to make top cut, was to defeat the best player in Europe, Plutony. And Mute swiftly destroyed him in the 3-0 shutout. Needless to say, this is already Mute's most impressive run to date if it ended here. But after a down to the last hit set with Light, Mute found himself in Winners Finals, facing none other than 2022's best player in the world, MK Leo. Mute shut out Leo's Byleth in the first 2 games, but then, Mute had to face his infamous Joker. After losing Game 3, Mute did it. He overcame Leo, a player who is known to statistically clutch upsets in Game 4, and now Mute sat in Grand Finals. Outside of winning his first major ever, he could potentially also give Peach her first major win since 2019. In losers, Leo looked down for the count against Light. But then, he woke up.
Just to get out of the corner, not even a punch.
The trap, that was beautiful. Like going super low. Oh, Leo making a play and making him count.
Leo made his way back into Grand Finals, and this time, Mute wasn't facing 2022 Leo, he was facing 2019 Leo, a force where you had to play better than your best to overcome. And unfortunately, this is where Mute's run ends. He loses both sets of Grand Finals 3-1, and Leo wins his 5th Genesis title. Not all Cinderella stories have happy endings, but Mute proved he had what it takes to get there. Now, while history wasn't made in Ultimate, Melee was a very different story. This was the first big Melee tournament of the year, and as always, one of the most important. All of 2022's top 10 were in attendance, and just like Ultimate, huge upsets plagued the bracket. After coming off a hot streak in December, where the Red Yoshi claimed the number 2 rank in 2022, Amsa got upset first round of top 64 by Toussaint, a notable Puff player from New York. Toussaint would go on to beat Sunsei, lose to Plup in winners, and defeat Kodorin to make top 8, taking a very strong 7th, and proving once again, your name doesn't have to be Hungrybox to succeed with Jigglypuff. Other notable upsets that happened in the top 64 were Salt over Axe, SFOP over Aklo, Ginger over S2J, and Moki's tear through winners, defeating both HBox and Cody Schwab to make it to top 8. There were also some notable low-tier runs, with Taj the Mewtwo, Franz the Dr. Mario, Eddie Mexico Luigi, and Kumquat Cylinder, the Donkey Kong player, all making top 64, with Taj notably beating Mango's Dr. Mario. Sure, top 8 was lined up with familiar top 10 faces and players who I mentioned were going on crazy runs. Plup vs Moki and Jmook vs Zane in winners, and Toussaint vs Cody Schwab and Hungrybox vs Leffen in losers. Cody and HBox both swept their first losers match with clean 3-0s. And in winners, Moki continued his hot streak with a strong 3-0 over Plup. And then there was Zane vs Jmook, last year's best player in the world versus last year's biggest breakout star. Jmook took game 1, dropped the next 2, but was able to come back and win 2-3 over Zane. That means in winners finals, 2 players who have never won a major before now had their shot at this exclusive club. In Melee's 22 years of existence, only 21 players can claim they have won a major. The stage is set for history to be made. Winners finals come around and Jmook quickly dismantles Moki in the 3-0 set. Jmook once again finds himself in grand finals, similar to Genesis last year, where he had his first big breakout on the scene. But this time, he has an advantage. He is on winner's side. On loser's side, he wasn't met by Moki again, or Zane as a repeat the grand finals from last year, but this time he's up against Cody. After beating Toussaint, Cody beat Zane, Plup, and Moki to make the grand finals, only dropping a single game to Plup. Now, the 2 New York players duke it out for the Genesis title. Sheik has never won a Super Major without a second character to support her in other matchups, and Jmook had to face arguably the player who knew him the best competitively. So, there was only one question left. Could Jmook do it? Could he win his first major ever?
Yeah, that's right.
Here.
This is game 1.
Right.
We're into it.
It's the grab.
Now Jmook could win if he's got to kill him right here though. Yep.
Oh!
Wow.
Wave dash back to get some of those tech faces with the ambiguous.
One thing Sheik's always talk about how frustrating it is. You can't tell. I thought he was gonna up air. It's the nair, grabs the ledge. Oh,
Looking for.
oh, that's it. Game 4 we go. He turned the stove off. He's like, hold on, not today, not today.
Right.
All right, 2 games to 1 right now. Jmook with the lead. He wants a chance.
Wait, that'll do it.
That
That's
might
it.
have been it.
That's
That
it.
weak
Yeah.
reverse hit there. Jmook is your Genesis 9
Let's go.
champion.
After a year of shortcomings, after a year since his second at the last Genesis, Jmook finally achieves one of the hardest things to do in any Smash game, winning a major. And not only that, he won a super major. Jmook forever makes his mark in Melee history, and now that he proved he could do it, his sights become set on the next big challenge in his career. Number 1 in the world.
Have to listen. Oh my butt!
Sabe que oh!
No, ahí está.
It's happened twice already, and that's it.
February rolls around, and as per usual, is a slow month for competition compared to the rest of the year. We started off by going back to Japan for another super major, Kagaribi 9. The Kagaribi events during 2022 became the Japanese tournament series, attracting players from across the country to compete for the gold. Another duo of international players came to Japan this time and made some big waves. From Australia, Cirque's the Sephiroth player caused one of the biggest upsets of the event, sending Mia to losers before top 192. The other was Jazzo, the best Ken player from the US. Jazzo proved to fare solidly in his first international trip, taking down top 10 in the world player Shuton in a swift 3-0 fashion. Unfortunately, his run ended after that match, losing to Now, the Mario player who did well at Genesis. Now would continue on to make top 8, taking a strong 5th place with wins over level 1 and Harrow. On the domestic side, two incredibly notable things happened this tournament. One was the return of Zachary, who was the definitive best Japanese player pre-pandemic. He took a hiatus most of 2022 to compete professionally in Pokemon Unite, and had a mixed return at the end of the year. But this time, he had a new breeze under his wings. Instead of Joker, or Rob, or Wolf, or Mr. Game & Watch, or Pokemon Trainer, or Wario, or Mario, or Sora, or Sephiroth, or Lucina, he brought out an entirely brand new character to compete, and arguably the worst character he has played yet. Zachary went only pit all tournament, a character who has very little representation in the meta, and was a bit of a wild card in competitive viability. He lost early in the bracket at the beginning of top 192 to Rimu, a Japan depth min, but would go on a 10-set losers run all the way to 3rd place, giving Pit the best tournament results the character has ever seen since Ultimate's release. But the true big highlight of this event was Ashimo, a Ryu specialist known for his incredible combo game and ability to excel with Ryu in a tough competitive environment. Ashimo would go on a run of his life. He would make it all the way to winners finals, defeating many top Japanese players, lose to Akala, then made it back to grand finals to face Akala again. Having not come close to taking a set against Akala before, he would win his first ever against the Steve Youngblood in Grands, resetting the bracket. But unfortunately his meter ran dry as he burned out in the second set against Akala, still taking an impressive second. Ashimo's first major win would have to wait. Known as a relatively large con tournament for years in the Las Vegas scene, Level Up Expo finally became a major event for Smash, in particular for Ultimate. Even though it was on the smaller side in terms of majors, big names still showed up to compete. The biggest surprise run came from the longtime veteran Mr. E, returning to a major top 8 in North America for the first time since 2020. He upset SoCal's best player Chase to get there, and continued his train of upsets against Zomba, who was already top 20 in the world in 2022 during the top 8, granting him a 5th place. The winner of the event was Light, winning his first major of the year. He lost to his training partner Tweak in winners finals, but got the run back and double eliminated the Diddy in grand finals. Melee was also featured here as a national event, and some strong talent still showed up. After missing top 8 at Genesis, Amsa bounced back and showed why he was number 2 last year by cleaning house, only losing 1 game the whole tournament. And the runner-up to the event was Kodorin, who made a shocking upset against Hungrybox in losers finals, where Kodorin won in a close Game 5 set. Later that week, for the first time in Ultimate's history, an official tier list was released. Over 70 international top-ranked players contributed their thoughts to create it, defining Steve, Aegis, and Joker as the top 3 characters in the game and their own tier above the rest. By the time this video releases, the second tier list will be underway or potentially already released, so keep an eye out for that. At the end of February though, a discovery was made that would change the discourse of Smash Ultimate for the rest of the year, and to be frank, most likely the rest of the game's lifespan. Of course, it was surrounding the best character in the game, Steve. The Israeli Steve player Exito posted a video of a technique called Phantom Major League Gaming, or just PMLG for short. It's a technique that allows Steve to utilize a phantom block to interrupt hit stun sequences, or in simpler terms, allows Steve to act quickly after getting hit, making combos on the character potentially difficult. Now, later down the line, this technique wasn't deemed to actually be that strong, and was generally seen as a glorified counter not worth using by many Steve mains. It still isn't really used by any Steves in tournaments, but the reveal of this technique led to various different tournament series and straight up countries banning the character from competitive play. That being said, many have reversed this decision over time, but Steve still remains banned in certain states, countries, and events. This is mainly due to the scenes finding the character to either be too overtuned, overpowered, or just actively disliked by their community. And the community from now on was split over Ultimate's #1 character.
As I say that. Oh, that's the down tilt that's over.
You're crazy. You're crazy. Do it again. You're crazy.
Oh, Amsa! Oh, no. We take no!
March kicks off in Osaka, Japan, with the first Maisuma top of the year in full swing. No international invaders this time, just pure Japanese talent. This event showcased a lot of new young upcoming talent in Japan, especially in the Kansai precinct. Prior to top 8, a multitude of upsets occurred. After ever increasing major placements, Neo fell just shy of top 8 at 9th place. But he made quite a name for himself, beating players like Manzoku, Shiryuki, and most importantly T. There was also the best major run ever from a Zelda player. He defeated notable names such as Kome, Passaramon, AIM, and Ashimo, but also was just short of the goalpost, ending their run at 9th. Top 8 had a bunch of new names making breakthrough runs for the first time in their careers. At 7th there was Kaninabe, a Fox player who showed great promise in 2022, looking at the time as potentially top 50 in Japan at the end of that year. But here at Maizuma, he went on a silent run to 7th, defeating Rizeisu and Yin. At 5th there was a duo of F-Zero pilots. Jokubu, who just broke into the top 100 last year for the first time in his career, made it to top 8 at his second major ever. On the other side was Kurage, who was barely top 100 in Japan at the end of 2022. He would go on a shocking run, defeating Neo to make top 8, but quickly fell to Ashimo and Ken. In winter semis, Akala and Mia faced off once again, and after losing 4 times in a row, Mia finally took his first set over Akala. He would then also defeat Ken in winners finals, and surprisingly, Ken would return to Grands. The Japanese Sonic defeated the Falcon Gauntlet and took his first win over Akala as well in a close Game 5 set. In Grand Finals, Mia would win the tournament in another Game 5 set, giving him his first super major win, now starting to establish himself as the second best player in Japan. The week after was Collision in New Jersey, a major tournament for Melee and a super major for Ultimate. Collision was packed with wild results across both games. In Melee, we would see Junebug take another low-tier character to new heights. He moved on from Dr. Mario last year and decided to continue developing Melee's unsung meta in the lower depths of the tier list. After experimenting with Donkey Kong and regional local events, he would take the gorilla to a solid 17th, pushing a new wave of Konganism in Melee. In top 8, we had a surprise run from Canadian player Zuppy. Having only peaked at 13th in majors prior, he would break past his personal best with a whopping 4th place for his first major top 8 ever. Grand finals were between familiar faces, Zayn and Jmook, with Jmook in losers after losing early to Cody. And once again, Jmook would win, double eliminating Zayn and taking an early lead in the race for number 1 by the end of the year. Jmook went from never winning a major before to winning consecutive back-to-back majors. The question now was, how long can he keep it up? Ultimate was a tournament of pure unprecedence. It was a tournament dominantly filled with NA's best, but the event was littered with upsets and new talent taking the reins. Most notably before top 16, Quandale Dingle would upset top 2 in the US player Light. A relatively unknown Snake player named Bobo would beat the best Roy in the business, Cola. Tri-State Youngblood Syrup would once again find an upset over Cosmos. Bayonetta legend Lima would upset Mario player Karama. And after making a name for himself as a potential top 50 player last year, Skyjay would take Incineroar to top 16, defeating top players like the Buzz and Mexican compatriot Meister. Quid, the miracle winner of Let's Make Big Moves 2022, would eliminate the Buzz and losers. Top 16 wasn't prone to the heel either. Skyjay would continue his run with another huge upset, this time over Spargo, one of NA's strongest, if not best players. And Lima too would make another big upset, in a Smash generational matchup, this time defeating Tweak and Bayo versus Diddy. After losing to him at Scuffed World Tour, Riddles would get his run back against MKLeo, defeating him in the Swift 3-0, and would later go on to make Grand Finals. MKLeo afterwards was one set away from making top 8, and Leo up to this point hasn't missed a top 8 of an open bracket tournament since May 2019. But in his way is a bit of a wild card. He had to face Shiny Mark, a Guatemalan Pikachu player known for his come up during the quarantine Wi-Fi era, and consistent placements at online tournaments. Shiny Mark lost to Lima pre-top 64, and has already been on the 6-player losers run to get here. Leo though has had a troubled history versus Pikachu, particularly with ESAM, so this definitely felt doable for Shiny Mark. Leo would take game 1, would quickly fall the next 3 games, with Shiny Mark making his first major top 8. Fast forward a bit and we make it to Grand Finals, and as mentioned, Riddles has already clinched his spot to face off for gold. But surprisingly, the one to meet him there was Skyjay, bringing his low-tier character on a meta-defining run. He beat Lima and then lost to Riddles in winners finals, but defeated Spargo again to make it back. Incineroar, who, may I remind you, was considered a C-tier character at the time, made it all the way to Grands. Now, a low-tier warrior had the chance to do something incredible. All he had to do was get through one of the most explosive top-tier characters in the game.
Do not want to give Skyjay any sort of chances to really. Oh my God! That's why! Corner. Riddles obviously rage drive ready to go. Skyjay. Crazy out. Oh, up B. Riddles the 2-0 lead.
Pull that up air so safe on block.
But Riddles finds the hell out of here. Keep in mind, it is do or die for Skyjay here. And it looks like he's not dying, baby! Exactly those strangers are kind of falling apart to pressure sometimes. Oh my God!
Never mind, bro. Never mind.
How many times can he whip punish Riddles? Look how many times. That's it. I don't even know what to say.
I don't either.
Flabbergasted right now. That's the only word.
No way!
It's gone. It's gone. His face is in. That's it. I think that's it.
Up B. It does it. Riddles takes it.
What an incredible set!
Unfortunately, SkyJ would fall just short of resetting the bracket. But on the other hand, Riddles would get his second major win in his Ultimate career, proving that the Big House 10 wasn't a fluke and that he was here to stay as a top 10 threat in the metagame. On the same weekend, there was another major event in Tokyo. This time, it was the return of the Japanese series Saibugeki for its 13th iteration. We saw young Link specialist Suinako manage to make top 8 at a major for the first time in his Smash career, plus a phenomenal run from longtime veteran Kameme, honing in on his Sora for a strong second place and taking a win on one of his biggest bracket roadblocks, Shuton. Kameme though would fall to Mia, who would win his second major in a row in Japan and start to look like he was on a whole new level compared to his peers. Now let's head on over to Pennsylvania for the first big 64 event of the year. Keystone has always been a staple solo 64 event, with its 6th edition in full swing. After being absent for a majority of competition in 2021 and 2022, Victor aka Hammerheart made their return known at this event. They were a top 10 player at the end of 2019 and proved they still had what it takes to beat some 64's best, defeating strong talent such as Fineo and Baby K-Web to win the event. Later in San Diego, one of esports' ongoing house health events was taking place, DreamHack. And for this national event, a decent amount of names for Melee showed up. Most notably, Kodorin would upset Axe for the second time in his career. Axe is well known for having an insanely close to impervious record against Marth, making any contender who can beat him with said character incredibly impressive. Still not entirely finding his footing to compete at the same level after a dominant end of 2022, Opsa finally takes another dub here. He shows signs of that dominance, winning the event without losing a single game. Ultimate also had a regional event here, with MK Big Box proving that his run at Let's Make Big Moves wasn't just a run over, taking the event over Kurama. March concludes in Los Angeles, with the Beyond the Summit crew returning with another 16-person invitational. Smash Ultimate Summit 6 featured 12 of the best players in the world and 4 invitees from Summit fundraising. The round-robin pools to determine seeding gave a chaotic start to this tournament. Pool A was completely dominated by Snake player Apollo Kage. AK showed a lot of promise towards the end of 2022, but this was a new career high. He defeated Leo and Gluttony in pools, and surprisingly had the toughest time against Hungrybox. Player May did not have many expectations from due to his main focus being Melee. Carrying the momentum from Genesis, Mude swept Pool B, defeating Naderu from France, Riddles, and most notably Spargo. Mexico had a rough start, as both Spargo and Leo would end up third in their pool, losing to Riddles and Gluttony respectively. Japan cleaned up Pool C and D, with Aquila defeating SkyJ, Kurama, and Void, and Proto Bonham entering his first tournament of the year, beating Tweak, Big D, and Aaron. The final bracket was set up, and loser side was a shark bit. MK Leo, Spargo, and Gluttony would all start in losers after losing their gauntlet matches. With the stage set, it was time for the main event. And immediately, it started off with a huge upset. Void, best known in the gaming community as the world's greatest gamer, and in Smash 4's Sheik during Smash 4 and Pichu in early Ultimate, pulled off a huge Game 5 upset over Spargo, giving Spargo his worst placement post-quarantine at 13th. In winners, Big D also pulled an immaculate upset, taking Aquila to losers. Some of the biggest favorites to win the tournament were now down in the trenches, with Tweak, Proto, Kurama, and Big D being the only one to remain in winners. Tweak got his run back against Proto, and Big D continued his miracle run, defeating Kurama. But unfortunately, Sephiroth proved to be too tough of a matchup for Ice Climbers due to his huge disjointed hitboxes, so Tweak easily cleaned through Big D to sit in winner's side of Grands. But in losers, a force to be reckoned with was still in bracket. A force that has won 3 majors already in 3 months. A champion looking to prove they are truly the best player in the world.
Like he kind of rode over there and saw that Leo was in a position where he can't get him. Oh God! At least was that Leo can make some magic happen. But no, the last hit. There's no nothing. He had nothing. He punched him in the mouth. Oh no! God! Ludo is Mr. Clutch. Mr. Sorry. Side of the down smash. Going super guy to be able to bring it back. It's just played perfectly. That's it. However, so dangerous. Oh man. It's just 121. One hit left, and it's going to be the cart. Elbow is a really shitty mark. Forcing to go. It's not even going to matter now. Yo, wait, that's a 10. Oh my God, doing that. Is that it? Yes, it is. There's that one time that was like 120, 130. Oh, that had to have been a drop down for him. Yeah, for sure. Oh! Now in time. Yeah, he has a lot to make up in. There's so many things he has to avoid. Has to find this last run somehow.
Aquila finally secures the Summit Championship, dominating over NA's best, putting himself in the seat as the best player in the world. This was also the last Summit event ever. Back in February, LD, the head of Beyond the Summit, announced that they were shutting down, citing economic issues struggling the team. They started these events back in 2015, and after 8 years, have been an integral cornerstone to the Smash community. Thank you, BTS, for everything you've done.
Will. Oh, yeah, here's a grab.
I feel like an
Yep. So I look at it. Second. Yeah.
空の吹き抜けであればまだ取ることができますがどう
We start off April with Oregon's first Smash Major ever, Major Upset, featuring both Melee and Ultimate. With J-Mook absent, that means Melee would get a new Major winner for 2023. With Zane, last year's #1 player, also not present, the opportunity was open to a ton of talent on the field. That being said, not a ton of big upsets happened at this event. Canadian Fox Sunsei would defeat top Peach player Lod to make top 8, but that was really it. The top 8 though was incredibly competitive, with only 2 sets not going to Game 5. Cody Schwab defeated Hungrybox, and top Sheik veteran Plup would beat Sunsei, setting themselves up in winners finals. Then Cody would defeat Plup, priming himself to take the event. Opsa would go on a strong run to 3rd, defeating Axe, Sunsei, and Hbox in top 8, but unfortunately ran into Plup, a player he has a general losing record to. Cody and Plup would duke it out in grand finals. Now Cody hasn't won a major since Double Down back in July 2022, but Plup hasn't won one in a longer time, since winning the Smash World Tour Championships back in 2021. Both players wanted it, but who wanted it more? Well, the big thing here to take note of is that Cody hasn't lost to Plup since Smash Summit 11 in 2021, currently on a 6-set winning streak. Cody would win Game 1 after an unfortunate SD from Plup, and would take that momentum to steamroll Game 2 with a 4-stock shutout. But Plup was undeterred, kept his composure, and would clutch out Game 3 and would make a huge conversion off of an edge guard Game 4. The thing was, these games were close, so Cody just needed to win a few more interactions to take the event. And at the end of Game 5, he was in that tough position off stage last stock, but was able to reverse the situation off of Plup's mistakes, and clutched out the victory, winning his first major in 2023. Ultimate here was also a major event, and as like every Ultimate major, it had its handful of upsets. Prior to top 8, PNW staple Ludo would upset Jackal and make a run all the way to 9th, ending up rematching Jackal for a top 8 slot, but losing to the USA's best Wolf. Big D would continue playing hot after Summit, taking a big upset over Riddles to make top 8 in winners. SoCal's new best player Chase would finally have the breakout event of their career, where he would lose to Riddles in close Game 5 in winners, but go on to beat strong PNW talent and British Columbia staple Ouch to make his first major top 8 in his career. PNW's depth continued with other upsets, with Fizment the Shulk defeating Base Mage before top 64. Base Mage though would pull himself together and go on a 6-set losers run to make the cut, getting a big win over Zomba to get in and finally make top 8 at a North American major. But what everyone was excited for was the 2 Mexican top players and 2021's biggest rivalry finally meeting again in bracket, MKLeo versus Spargo. After underperforming at Summit, Leo has been sorting out a character crisis and went only Pirate and Mithra this event, a character whom many criticized him for using last year due to the pair not finding the same success as his Byleth and Joker. But he proved everyone wrong here by beating Spargo in winners finals, showing that they can compete with the best. Spargo would quickly defeat Riddles in losers finals and was ready to rematch Leo in grands. At this point, Leo had an impressive 11-3 set record over Spargo lifetime, being a thorn in the young prodigy side. But in the end, Spargo adapted, defeating Leo's Aegis 3-1, then shutting him out 3-0 in the reset, winning his first major in 2023. This would be only the 5th time Spargo has defeated Leo in his Ultimate career, and Leo has had a history of gatekeeping major wins from Spargo. But unlike then, he was finally able to beat Leo to win a major. Now, North America Ultimate scene was an interesting place. Out of the 5 NA majors so far this year, 5 different players have won the events, making it the most competitive season for North America so far. But this event was just a start for Spargo this season. But from here on out, he wouldn't just be going for the title of best in either Mexico or North America, but would start his race to contend for #1 in the world. April and the beginning of May became one of the busiest times for competitive Smash in Japan, as Golden Week ascended into Golden Month for the Ultimate tournaments in the region. Major tournaments felt like they were happening every week across the country, and our journey this month starts in the Kyushu precinct, a region not really known for its scene unlike Kanto and Kansai, but was on the map already due to previous Kowloon events and of course being Shuton's original home region. Speaking of Kowloon, its 5th iteration occurred at the beginning of April as another Ultimate major. We saw Japan character specialists like Shirayuki and Taike make runs to top 8, and the sole American Vader Cosmos getting a strong 5th place, falling to the Shikoku duo of Ashimo and Yara. But after being gone from his home region of Kyushu and moving to Tokyo, plus losing to Shirayuki earlier in bracket, Shuton came home, ran a 9-set losers run, and clutched his first major win of the year, defeating Mia in grand finals. He was given a strong reception from his old scene, celebrating his triumphant return. Okay, continuing in Japan is Wave 4, another Kanto major. We saw standout performances from the best Falco in Japan, Masa, and Shulk specialist Kome, both getting top 4 placements and getting the best major placements they will for the year, with Masa upsetting Zachary and Kome upsetting Jagaimo plus Ken to make top 8. Shuton carried his momentum from Kowloon, winning another major event in Japan for the 2nd week in a row. He faced longtime veteran Kameme to take the event, but at this point, Kameme is one of Shuton's most comfortable matchups, having an 8-1 winning record lifetime over Sword Extraordinaire. Despite some shaky losses earlier in the season and not meeting the top 10 expectations he ended last season on, Shuton finally found his footing again this season as one of Japan's best. A week later, and we finally entered the actual Golden Week. It's not another Ultimate tournament to kick it off, but the first major event for Smash 64. 2023 Spring Kanto was a continuation of the Kanto series events, exclusively held every year for Smash 64. It was the first big major event for Japan since quarantine ended. The bracket itself was done by paper and was uploaded to their own website instead of using standards such as StartGG or Challenge or whatever the hell Tournamel is. But thankfully the team over at Liquipedia deciphered most of the main bracket on their site, which is incredibly helpful for me because I don't speak Japanese. Top 4 seeds were all well-known menaces of the scene. Wario, a Pikachu player who has racked up many Japanese tournament wins, is most infamously known for coming to the US for the first time in 2017 to win Genesis 3. Kiyoshike, a longtime Kirby and Falcon player who has won many Kanto titles, a Genesis, and SmashCon back in 2019, and is arguably one of Japan's most accomplished 64 players. Karaba, the Yoshi player who was also the winner of last year's SmashCon and considered the #1 64 player last year, and Wangera, the best Jigglypuff player in the world who repeatedly places well and is known for being the first player to ever defeat Smash Legend Isaiah's Pikachu in bracket. The forward clashed in winner semis of the event, and Kiyoshiki came out on top, taking sets off of Wario and Karaba, and continued to build his case as the best Japanese player in Smash 64. To close out April and truly kick off Golden Week for Smash Ultimate was none other than Maisuma Top 12. Unlike previous Japanese events this year though, Japan didn't just have one foreign North American invader, they had to face an army. Some of NA's best came out to compete, including Team Liquid's Dabuz and Riddles, Texan Titans such as Mutes and Lima, Cosmos continuing his Japan trip, Jazzo coming back again, and others. On top of that, we also had some of Australia's best, and Mr. R from the Netherlands show up as well. This would be the first time we got to see Japan's new uprising talent get to face off against players of this international caliber. How would they fare? Well, out of the 10 invading NA players, only one managed to make top 8, Riddles, would have a great run to 4th, defeating some amazing players for the first time, such as Hero, Ryuo, and other typical top Japanese players. Other than that though, the USA players, to put bluntly, got washed. Send would get the highest placement out of his US brethren, defeating Inkling main Showers, and unfortunately having to knock out fellow NA player Lima to make 13th. Others would fall much earlier than expected though. Cosmos lost to upcoming Min Min Omuwatsu, Dabuz would lose to Toon Link veteran Sigma and young sprouting Min Min Doramigi, but most notable of all is Mutes, who only made it to 65th, falling to the best manager in the world Torigiri, and deaf player Jagabata. On the Japan player side of the event, we had some great breakout runs. After beating Mutes, Torigiri would bring his run all the way to 9th, giving Banjo his best major placement result post-quarantine. Kansai Luigi player Rabukun would also get an excellent 9th place. We even had a new rising star make top 8 this event. After great showings in February and March, Neo would finally bring Korn to the top cut with a 5th place finish. Top player Gact would have what is most likely his best event of the year, finishing 3rd with wins over big names such as T, Shuton, and gatekeeping out Reels from going further in the event. The grand finals was a showdown between Japan's new biggest rivalry, consisted at this point the #1 and 2 in Japan, Aquila versus Mia. And Mia wouldn't even stand a chance, losing 3-0 in grand finals. At the rate Aquila was going, it was looking impossible for anyone to take #1 from the world over him. But the season still didn't end until mid-July, so while his record was amazing, that doesn't mean the title was his yet. He still had 2 important major events in the year that could simmer the emperor of his bonfire of results.
This could be it.
Time to clock out. Zane with just the
May starts off with the continuation of Golden Week, with still 2 more Japanese majors to go. First was the second big major event of the week, Delta 4. While the amount of US players joining this event was smaller than Maisuma, they had someone new joining their forces to invade Japan, Zamba, NA's best draw player who has been putting up a solid consistent stream of results back in the US. Alas, Japan's talent still slaughtered the majority of the US players. Cosmos fell to Sasusoro and Takara, Sand lost to Noi and Matsunabe, Dabuz was defeated by Mao and AIM, and Mutes once again was unable to find their footing, tripping into a 49th and losing to Harasen and Chicken. The Zombo unfortunately did not do that hot either, falling very early in bracket to Lax the Crom player, and ending his run at 25th losing to Lucario main Gachipi. Japan's lesser known talent really proved themselves these past 2 events, and even top 8 runs from solidly established players like Jagaimo and Takara, plus budding breakthroughs from Watsunabe, Yaman Action, and especially Ezus, who would get a stellar 4th place, almost beating Riddles in the Game 5 set. Speaking of which, there was just one player who they could not stop from tearing through winners, Riddles. Riddles would coast through his bracket, then have a close Game 5 with Ezus and Mia to make grand finals. He was primed to be the first international player to win a super major in Japan, with PNW Pikachu player H4 being the first to win any Ultimate event in Japan earlier this year. But after getting the run back over Shuton from Kowloon, Mia made it back to grand finals and still had some fight in him. He would double eliminate Riddles in close sets, holding Japan's majors from international takeover just another day. Golden Week concluded with the biggest event in the first half of the year, Kagari B10. This was North America's last tour to really prove themselves in Japan, and this time, they even had one of their best players here to compete, Spargo. So, was North America able to redeem themselves? And would anyone stop Aquila and his tyrannical reign of Japan? Top 192 started, and things were looking a bit rough for the foreign invaders already. Riddles finally got upset by a Japanese player and was sent to losers early by Snake-Man Dio, potentially the best Snake in the world, and a threat whom many thought was capable of competing against NA's best. Mid-Ace would have another rough bracket, losing to Levi and Australian player Kanaji for a harsh 65th, unable to redeem his other bracket runs. The Buzz would be sent to losers by Japan's second best Sonic, Taike. Lima would get great Japanese wins over strong talents such as Kaninabe and Hikaru, but would ultimately fall to Aqua in winners, who would then have to unfortunately face Riddles and losers, who ended Lima's run at 17th. Cosmos would fall to losers super early to LY, but would also do a solid losers run to 17th. Jezza would take a win over level 1, but lose to Yoshidora and Cosmos, and most infamously, Spargo would be sent to losers by Yara in a 3-0 shutout. Some other Japanese players that did fantastically was one of Chuba's longtime players, Masha, taking his Wolf to 9th place finish, just shy of top 8. Another is Hurt, a Wi-Fi Snake player from Kyushu who fell early in winners, but made a 9-set losers run to 13th, losing to the Buzz in a close 3-2 set. But even with all the setbacks, North America picked up the pieces. Riddles and the Buzz would crawl their way through the losers and make it to top 8. Zombo would take a strong 9th place, only losing to some of Japan's best. And Spargo went through a gauntlet of some of Japan's best to round out top 8 with 3 North American reps. Joining them in losers would be Mia, who was upset earlier in bracket by a Meta Knight player called Matara, and also clawed his way all the way to top 8. In winner side, we had Aquila versus Yoshidora, which was expected. And on the other was Zachary versus Hero, with Hero somehow making it all the way to top 8 winners with solo Bowser. Aquila and Zachary won their matches in winter semis, and that means we finally got to see these two face off. Aquila, the new age emperor of Japan, and Zachary, the old guard dominator of the scene from pre-pandemic. Both have gotten the title of best in Japan in the past, and the set to be had will be legendary. Aquila won 3-2, with the torch passed over the bonfire as the new age player's passion burned bright for Japan's future in the competitive Smash. With 2 sets to work with, Aquila was making it look like he was inevitably going to win another Japanese major, but that wasn't the case. You see, in losers, there was one player who has repeatedly defeated Aquila in the past who could threaten his tournament victory. Spargo was still in play, and Spargo had something to prove.
上から吹き空中との攻撃着地をしっかりしている。
今度は上からなんですね。
空中した5万円。投げるかこのラストバトン。空中しろ。まずは場外。この闇合いを1回。ダッシュ攻撃。空中しろでチコもいなくなった。木内逃げ先は崖しかない。飛び込みすぎて競技に通して。さあ気づけばリミットゲージも限界超えた。競技で詰め切ったで引きつけるさあそこの存在判定を生かしたガンガシメがけ向かいを切っていたら死が見えていた状況でした空中後ろの時間ですが割り込みが一つで空間から読めるが競技にやり過ごしてコカブルシェが今日も残りわずかだ空気として競技で撃戦両者のチームが空中後ろでドロップしていて勝ったそのリベル同士がしかしプレッシャーの活用方法重点に把握して上強攻撃ジャックがいる移動回避を一旦ダメであったが空中しろ指名スタでも追試まで空中牛トルで撃戦
Spargo would win the event after a dominating show in grand finals, stealing the premier tournament victory over Aquila, who had become the first international player to ever win a major in Japan, and would prove that Aquila wasn't invulnerable. Battle of BC5 was next week, where these two were projected to face off again. Would Aquila find a way to adapt in time? Well, we'll see in just a second, but first, we have some Smash 64 to talk about. We finally leave Japan and arrive to Laurel, Maryland for the USA's first 64 major of the year. Longtime event organization Xanadu was holding a series of events to celebrate their 500th Xanadu weekly tournament. One of them was Xanadu Origins, an event celebrating Smash 64 and Brawl. While Brawl's event was much smaller, 5 of the current active scene top 10 were in attendance, ready to duke it out. All eyes were on 2 players though. Player 1, a Diddy player who competed back during Brawl's active days and stood now as the 3rd best Brawl player, and Cody, just Cody, not the Schwab kind, who was someone who started competing in Brawl after Smash Wii U came out, and ended 2022 as the 2nd best player in the scene. Player 1 would win the close 3-2 set in winners finals, but Cody would sweep player 1 in grands with a swift 3-0 to take the event. For 64, NA's top players showed up for Xanadu Origins, with over 20 ranked players in attendance and some older players coming out of hiatus. We had former #1 player Super Boom Fan return after not competing in 4 years, going solo Fox from a Twitter poll vote. Apex 2022 champion KD3 was here, Joshi from Peru showed up, and of course a bevy of top NA talent, with over half the entrants being previously globally ranked in some form. Many showed up to celebrate one of the biggest pillars in the community, as Xanadu was the first organized streamed weekly for Smash 64, and a huge part of its growth. The bracket was separated into 2 parts. First was round robin pools, where the top 3 of each pool made it to the second part, a double elimination bracket. The pool stage went pretty much as expected, as most of the players who anticipated to make the final bracket did so. With this many strong players in attendance though, it felt like big upsets were waiting to happen. And they did, as the ranked 17th player from last year put on a show. Zero took a big win over Boomfam, switching off of his main Falcon and using Kirby to secure a reverse 3-0 victory. He would go on to also beat KD3 and find a spot in winners finals. On the other side of the bracket, longtime player Karo Karopi was on a run. He would defeat CTG, top 10 player Josh Brody, and second best player from Peru, Joshi, to make winners finals too. He would then defeat 0-3-1, seeding himself in grand finals. Now, despite being an active competitor since 2013, and even breaking into the top 10 in global rankings multiple times, Karo has surprisingly never won a major. This was his best shot in doing so. But in the shark pit of top players that was losers bracket, a force well known throughout the community was still lurking. In 2018, he was the best player in the world. In 2019, he won 18 tournaments in a row before retiring at SmashCon, and also only dropped 10 games in total to North American players. Of course, I am talking about no one other than Super Boomfam. Even while not going his main characters, Falcon or Pikachu, he still managed to tear through losers, taking out NA's best and getting the run back against Zero, only dropping 1 game the whole time. So, Karo had to overcome one of the best 64 players of all time to win his first major. And a player to the best of my knowledge, he has never beaten before in his entire career, despite a double-digit amount of sets played. It didn't matter that Boom wasn't playing his main characters, especially as everyone else already lost to him. What mattered is if Karo can stop him.
He grabs the jump, that should be it. He's just letting him back.
Eat that perfect roll.
Oh, and the trade is gonna go in Karo's favor.
I think he just needs to grab the ledge. Yeah.
Yeah, he does have a lot of kill moves at his disposal. Even back air, get a neutral. Ooh, okay. Oh, the down angle, that's still for the DI behind. Not enough.
I think Karo should at least sometimes attempt.
Oh, what? What's happening?
Crazy. I think just grab ledge here. Yeah.
Good. Turn around to the jab. The anti-air jab from the top platform.
And now an even set here.
Such a good strategic play here from Kiro.
Oh wow. Somehow lines that up here. And
Wow, that's gonna get too close, and Boom potentially on his final stock of the tournament. Something we very rarely get to say. Boom in losers, Boom with a single stock. Kiro needs one more
that
grab,
nair
potentially. Finds a grab. And run off there. That'll do it. Boom.
Wow.
Kiro wins. Kiro takes his first tournament ever over Boomfan after losing to Boom for years. Tournament after tournament, denied the victory. He finds the edge guard. He finds that F throw. And Kiro Karopi is your champion.
Finally, after 10 years of competing, finally, after many major second placements and Boom usually being the one to stop him, finally, Karo Karopi did it. He won his first major in Smash 64, defeating one of his biggest demons in the process. May ends in Vancouver, with Battle of BC returning for its 5th edition. Starting as a humble regional event for British Columbia, evolved over time to become one of the most important events for the Melee and Ultimate scene this year, on par with events like Genesis and Kagura B10. Ultimate featured a ton of international talent duking it out, with a hefty amount of Japanese players coming out to compete, including multiple players first time overseas such as Neo, Yara, and most importantly Yoshidora, a player who has consistently been rated a top 20 player in the world, and had a chance to prove it on the international stage. After defending their home turf during Golden Week, Japan feared its eyes towards showing the world why they were the best country in Smash. With a ton of big names in attendance, you know the upsets were inevitable. During Top 128, Spain's best player Siski had an incredible run, upsetting both Rills and Yoshidora for a 9th place finish. Zamba came back from Japan a new player, dominating over NA's best and getting first-time wins over MKLeo and Tweak to make top 8. And after struggling in Japan, Mies would come back to the US ready to compete again, defeating Kameme and Kola. A big highlight for this event was Kameme. He won a slot on the donation drive and was flown out to the event last minute, but made the biggest impact. After losing to Mute in top 192, he would go on one of the best losers runs in his Ultimate career, defeating big names like Big D, MKLeo, Gluttony, Yoshidora, and Mia, just to name a few. His run though would end at 4th after running into his bracket Kryptonite, Shuton. Top 8 itself was dominated by Japan's presence, with 5 representatives from Japan, and then 2 from Mexico, and Zamba being the sole US rep, with the 5 reps from Japan in top 8 ending up to rank as the top 5 of Japan in the first half of the year. The power dynamic of Smash Ultimate was slowly shifting, but at the very top in Grand Finals was a repeat of the last. Spargo and Akulu would meet again in grand finals, and Aquila would try going mainly Aegis. While he did succeed at taking one game, he would soon be dismantled and double eliminated, with Spargo proving to be Aquila's bracket demon, sporting a 5-0 head-to-head record this season. With these two most likely not facing again until second season, it led the question of who would be number one. Aquila with his better head-to-head record against the top 20, bigger quantity of major wins, and overall better consistency, or Spargo with the 2 premier wins and head-to-head record over Aquila, but overall worse losses in 2023. With 2 more months though in competitive season, a lot could still change, so only time would tell. In Melee, the competitive stakes were just as high. A majority of the top 10 were in attendance, and with only 2 players winning majors this season, the top talent were hungry to take this one home. Of course, Melee had its own upsets, with some notables being S2J over Mango to make top 8, a Canadian SmackDown where Sunsei defeated Moki, and Polo beating veteran Fiction. The big breakout run this weekend would come from Triff, the longtime #1 player from Spain. The Peach player lost to the best player from Australia, Joshman, prior to top 48, but then he would go on to beat established talents such as Zuppy, Axe, and Sunsei to make a run all the way to 7th, making his first top 8 in an open bracket major since 2016. In top 8, we saw Zayn finally set himself up for a major win by defeating Cody Schwab in a Game 5 set. But on the other side was a player finally waking up. The Red Yoshi finally showed some signs of that dominance he had at the end of last year in these past 2 months, and Opsa continued to show up, defeating Jmook and Zayn to situate himself in grand finals. But fortunately for him, Opsa had one problematic player he had to deal with to win. Cody came back up to grands after defeating Jmook and getting the run back on Zayn. Plus, is notably a player Opsa struggles against, with Cody leading at a 9-3 lifetime set record. And struggled he did, as Cody secured his first Super Major win in a 6-1 fashion, now tying him up for the potential #1 slot for the year next to Jmook. But it was only still May, and the season was just starting to heat up in events. The race for #1 only just begun.
Okay, doesn't get the up air.
And upfield is enough! Cody from losers!
What's he gonna do?
Oh, he waits out the jump! Oh my!
Mega out. Oh, Mega One ranges. Oh, is that it?
June kicks off with more Melee goodness, as the Georgia Series tipped off returns as a major event for the scene. Both Jmook and Cody Schwab were in attendance, eyeing to take a lead in major wins for 2023. But an even crazier predicament occurred. Both Jmook and Cody would find themselves eliminated from the tournament before top 8. Jmook lost early in top 64 to MOF, a player who has never been ranked globally before in the top 100. Then, Jmook would go on to take some solid wins over Joshman and SFOP, but would be eliminated at 9th by Amsa, just shy of making top cut. Cody though would lose to Polish, a Peach player who broke into the top 25 during Melee's first offline year back post-quarantine. He would fall at 13th, taking a loss to Kodorin, who would make top 8 loser side shortly after. Polish would go on to upset Axe to make winners top 8, and Zayn, Aklo, and Mango would join him up there. The other players to make top 8 losers were Moki and Crudo, with the latter upsetting Axe. With those two out of the event, we'd get to see a new player take home a major victory in 2023. Moki would make an amazing run to 3rd, but was starting to potentially put up a top 5 season, now making top 8 at 3/4 of the majors he has attended, and taking strong 3rd place finishes at Here and Genesis. But grand finals would be between two powerhouses, Zayn and Mango. After a bit of defeatism towards not being ranked 2nd last year, Mango finally broke out of his slump, and not just top 8 a major, but find himself in the position to win one. But his opponent was one all too familiar with winning, and defeated Mango in winners finals and grand finals in a 3-1 fashion. Zayn, 2022's best player, finally found himself a major win in 2023 after being close these past 2 major events. With Jmook and Cody fumbling, this was Zayn's opening to defend his crown for #1 player in the world.
Oh, Zayn is too good. He's weaving out, and Zayn takes it.
We head back to California for Wave Dash, SoCal's annual national event for Melee and Ultimate. They had quite the showcase of talent coming out to compete for one of SoCal's newer series. After having a setback at Tipped Off, Jmook remained undeterred and showed it was just a slip up and he was going nowhere. He soundly took the event, beating players like Kodorin and Aklo, and only dropping 1 game the whole tournament to Fiction. Don't Test Me showed up and made top 8 as well. During the pandemic time, Zayn would sometimes enter brackets as Don't Test Me, where he would play solo Roy throughout the event, but now as first time at a big offline tournament. As a reminder, Roy is very bad, and Zayn managed to make it all the way to top 8, placing 7th and could potentially have even gotten a better placement as he won Game 5 with top players such as S2J and Magi despite losing. After struggling to showcase the dominance he had at Genesis earlier this year, MK would come bouncing back this event. He took the Ultimate event with a loss to Sonics, and while it was clear that Leo was still capable of competing, he seemed to have been in the middle of a character crisis still. This event alone, he played some staples like Byleth and Joker, but also brought out Meta Knight like he did at Summit, and ended up winning the event with Corrin, a character he has not used in bracket for over a year. Oddly, his Aegis was back on the bench, and while he still had a strong arsenal of characters and showcased he can still win with the majority of them, it was clear that Leo was still trying to figure out his lineup going forward. But with another major coming around the corner, he didn't have as much time yet to make a concrete decision. We continue our year in review in Orem, Utah, where Crown III returns as a super major for Ultimate. It was an incredibly top-heavy tournament for North America, and even some Japanese players flying out to compete for the gold. Tri-State came out to play, with 3/4 of winners' top 8 being taken by their top talent. Since Apex 2022, Jackal didn't really match up with any similar results afterward in 2023, but finally, he had another event where he popped off, defeating Chase and Onin and making a huge upset over Spargo in a close Game 5 set. Zabo would join him in Upset City, taking out Sonics and MKLeo, and once again showcasing that his gameplay and mentality have greatly evolved since his Japan trip. Teak would end up rounding out the Tri-State trio, and Shuton would defeat Light and would be the sole Japanese rep in top 8, with Ken and Gax both getting 13th. After losing to Jackal, Chase would go on a tear in losers and prove his first top 8 at major upset wouldn't be his last. He made big upsets over Light and Last Crown's champion T to make top 8, but one of the craziest matches was seeing Spargo versus MKLeo for 9th. Just a year ago, this was easily a matchup you would see in grand finals, and this time, Leo would seal the deal with his Joker, knocking Spargo out of the tournament. After looking like the new dominant #1 in North America, Spargo ended up taking his worst open bracket placement since competition restarted in 2021, and missing another major top 8 again this year. Shuton would defeat Jackal, and Zombo would once again beat Tweak. After making top 10 last year and mainly being relatively inactive afterward, Ona would still show that he's a top threat, taking 4th at this event. But he would fall to Jackal, who after losing to Shuton would go on to upset Leo, defeat Onin, and get the run back on Shuton to meet Zamba in grand finals. A new North American major winner was upon us, and even though Zamba had the positional advantage, he was facing someone who knew his game plan inside and out. If we include weeklies, these players have played 73 times in Ultimate's lifespan, with Zamba having a majority of the wins. Both of these players have been in positions of getting to grand finals but ultimately getting second last year. To us, we're about to see history in the making. But to them, it was just another New Jersey grand finals.
Has really redefined the character and rewritten the entire playbook for him. The same thing about Jackal, who is on the run of a lifetime. Either way, this is going to be a historic win for one of these two.
There's that forward throw. Gets hit by the left. Oh no. The 3-stack? Not the 3-3-stick. Not like that.
Oh, that's just barely.
Zamba was on my man like 30 Dan, bro. Oh my god. And is that going to be
way.
it up there?
Really? Getting 41 for 3. Gyro is gone. We're going to go high Jackal going up there to meet him. Actually, about to take the lead. Yes! That looks like a level 1 super. Like when he corner carries you with the down tilt, it's just, why does he get that? Oh! Bave off 1 stock. You got 2 more to go, and you're at 126. Avoids that forwarder, which definitely would have killed. Let's see what we're going to do. Is it a berry? It is.
Yep. And with that, people, Zamba will be your crowned 3 champion.
Zamba makes history, finally claiming his first major tournament win, and not only that, but a super major nonetheless. He takes the literal crown, and once again, the pot of major winners for NA has been even more diversified. Surprisingly though, with how popular Rob has been post-pandemic, Zamba won Rob's first major post-quarantine, and was also the first time to give solo Rob a major win, with Zachary being the only other player to bring Rob this far, but never alone. Post-Japan trip, Zamba ascended into a threat to potentially become the best player in the States. June ends with a duology of events, the first back in Osaka, where the last Maisuma top of the current ranking season was taking place. Between Akla taking a break after losing to Spargo multiple events in a row, Proto Bonham entering his first Japanese major of the year, and Kansai starting to build itself up as potentially one of the best regions in the world, this event had the correct ingredients for another crazy Japan breakout. And so, that happened. Notably being DeBuzz and Cosmos during Golden Week, this player was primed to pop off eventually. And just 1 month later, the 14-year-old Doramigi went on a run of a lifetime. He eliminated Proto 3-0 and a Min Ditto to make top 8, and then would take big wins over Yoshidora and Kameme. Unfortunately though, Doramigi would have to take the silver medal, as her noodle arms got served by the main chef in the kitchen, Mia. Doramigi couldn't even break a game off of Mia, as Mia barely even broke a sweat this tournament, taking another major win in Japan and showcasing that if Akla isn't present, he was clearly favored to win any event. The other event in the pair was King of Fields 95 number 3, all the way back in France. Europe finally had its first major of the year, and everything this season was shaping up around EU's biggest rivalry starting at the end of 2022, Gluttony versus Bloom for Eva. Since Ultimate's release, Gluto has been Europe's uncontested number 1 player. Very few, if any, were capable of defeating him from his homeland. But after winning VCA last year, Bloom started to become a real contender for the spot. They had already faced multiple times at Europe's national events this year, with Bloom leading 2-1 in head-to-head to 2023 so far. But this was a big major event, and a large portion of EU talent was stepping up to the plate to take the win. Unfortunately, while the rivalry storyline was set up and expected to play out, Bloom would find themselves getting upset, finding himself taking a tough 33rd, losing to French Def, Polynomus, and Emfuri, the Italian Sephiroth who has beaten him already earlier this year. But top 8 was stacked with EU's top talent, plus Kurama from the statesides coming over to compete. Kurama would fall to double Samus, taking losses to Quick and Siski, and after a quick 3-0, Gluto was in grand finals, with no one to challenge him. But in losers, a different UK player stepped up to the plate. After taking on a tough matchup of Luigi versus Samus twice, Luigi would find a seat in grand finals, showcasing his massive improvement this year. Unfortunately, he was no match for Gluto, who won the solid 3-1 victory and took home his first major of the year.
Il va y aller, Gluto. On peut recover dans le tilt d'instant.
Our first intermission here will be a brief one. Last year, I had a whole segment breaking down the first half of the year's meta for Smash Ultimate, but in July of 2023, I kind of already did that, breaking down the season's character stats in its own 13-minute video. So I'll keep the main points brief here, but if you're interested in the full breakdown, check it out after this video. To keep things on a high level, what you most importantly need to know is that Steve has finally overcome Rob as the #1 character with the most relevant competitive results, even despite some regions of the world having banned Steve. Cloud became very popular, and Pikachu's total results have fallen off a cliff. Steve is also the character with the most tiered event wins, with 8 of those being under Aquila. So yeah, once again, I'm not going to dig too deep, as I've already talked about all of this in the previous video. So I want to take some time to cover something else. These videos take a long time to make, especially this one. I've been working on it since beginning of October in 2023, oh my. So if you like what I do and want to see more of it, I've started up a Patreon. I love making these videos on stab projects, so if you want to help me continue to do so, consider contributing. For those who support, I'll be giving them access to any sheets and data sets I use for these videos, sneak peeks on upcoming projects, and dog pics. And who doesn't want to see dog pics? So please consider supporting me. I'll leave the link in the description. Alright, let's move on to the second half of the year.
Oh, the spacing around up tilt. Oh,
Oh, never mind.
that's gonna be it.
July kicks off the second half of the year back in Japan with another Saibugeki. And just like any Japanese tournament, new depth talent shine, as this proved that their run at Delta during Golden Week was no fluke, upsetting Mia in a close Game 5 set, first round of top 64. They would make another major top 8, placing 7th after defeating Noi and losing to Mia in the run back. Remember Tsubaki from back in late 2022? He continued to have great results at regionals and nationals, but failed to really make any big runs at majors since Japan 24. But finally, he'd go on a run, making it all the way to winners finals and finishing at 3rd place after getting a top 10 win, defeating Shuton. We saw other familiar faces like Aim, Ken, and Mia all make the top 8, but a brand new Byleth player branched their Sword of the Creator against their peers to make top cut. Prior to this, Rhino's offline tournament results were unassuming, but here, something must have finally clicked. Rather than just upset, but dominated over top Japanese talent like Kanenabe and Ken to make top 8, not dropping a game to either. They make top 8 at a major for the first time ever here, taking 5th after unfortunately having to face Aquila and Mia back to back. Shuton would take the runner-up spot, but ultimately Aquila would win the tournament, only dropping a single game the whole run to Shuton and continued his streak of dominance in Japan, claiming his 5th major win this year in his homeland. This leaves a question remaining on who outside of Spargo could even stop him. Next, we head back to California with streamer Ludwig hosting another Smash event. During quarantine, he ran the Ludwig Arun Championship Series as an open online event, with the last one being back in the beginning of 2022 before offline Melee came back post-quarantine. The 5th edition though would come back as an offline invitational, with 12 players from across the globe invited to compete and 4 players qualifying through an open qualifier the day before. The event was in 2 phases, Swiss Pools phase and final bracket, with only 8 of the 16 moving forward. Players would keep competing until they won or lost 3 sets. If they win 3, they move on to the final bracket. If they lost 3, they were eliminated from the competition entirely, and the pool would slowly wither down as more and more players win and lose 3 sets. It came to no surprise that the players who came out of pools without dropping any sets were 2 of the contenders most likely to win the event, and end up as #1 in the world, Zayn and Cody Schwab. Super notably, Kadoran would be the first player ever to shut out Axe 3-0 in Marth vs Pikachu, especially considering Axe is one of the best players in facing the character. After qualifying through the open bracket, Box Pikachu player Swift lost the first 2 games in Swiss Pools, but won their next 3 sets in a row to make it into the final bracket, defeating invited players such as Joshman, who'd become the 2nd Pikachu player ever to top 8 in Melee Major. The final bracket though was filled with typical Melee killers you'd expect, with a ton who have been already playing hot this year. The biggest wildcard of the tournament though was Leffen. Leffen in bracket is always a cryptid due to how far he is from the main competitive Melee scene, Zayn. He only has attended 2 other majors this year and made top 8 at both. Here, he would soundly defeat Hungrybox and would move into winter semis to fight Zayn. As mentioned earlier, some Fox players started to develop secondaries to play versus Marth, as some believed Marth is a losing matchup not worth facing at top level. Leffen is one of those players, and developed a Sheik to pull out whenever facing Marth, which has already successfully won him a major over Zayn before last year. They trade games 1 and 2, and Zayn decides to pull out a character to attempt to counterpick Leffen. No, it wasn't Roy. It was Ice Climbers, a character we've never seen Zayn use in bracket before, and notably a tough character for Sheik to deal with. And crazy enough, it helps take game 3. He switched back to Marth in game 4, but was once again thwarted by Leffen. So he tries Ice Climbers again in game 5, but the Ices got thawed as Leffen won and continued into winners finals to face Cody. In a very back and forth set, Leffen ended up clutching the Fox Sido, finding himself in grand finals for the first time this year. After falling to Leffen, Zayn would fight his way back through losers, defeating Moki, then Hungrybox, and edging out against Cody. This time, no more tricks. Zayn had complete confidence in his Marth and wanted an edge in the race to being number 1 this year. But on the other side, Leffen was looking at his big chance to win a big summit-like invitation event for the first time ever. And having come so close in the past, this was his shot. It all came down to who wanted it more, and who can outplay the other.
Hi, Ryan. I think up throw kills. Blur is somewhere screaming.
Oh my god, he's still alive.
Reset. Or might as well not go through the cutscene.
I don't know, that's a big juicy forward air. Oh, he misses. Doesn't matter.
She can do anything. She wants. What's the edge guard?
That was Rattle here every time.
Another tournament winner. Oh, not having a cloud.
Not having a cloud, really.
Yeah. But it's like you can't, it's not like Fox, right?
Weapon though.
Yeah, this is more
What is the tap in to beat Sheik? What's the cheese? What's the cheese?
Okay, no! Look at him.
As long as Leffen.
Maybe there's something. Oh, he came all the way down to the platform, held down, and that's it! Leffen takes it, LACS 5!
Wow. Leffen would finally secure an invitational win, even stating that he finally won an event in this building, as it was the same venue Summit used to be in. This would pretty much be the end of Leffen's Melee participation in 2023. But he would continue to compete in other games, most notably winning the Guilty Gear Strive event at EVO, the biggest fighting game tournament of the year. The Melee Mayhem continues as we go to Europe for the first Melee major they have hosted since DreamHack Winter all the way back in 2016. The UK series Fate returns for its 3rd edition, this time with top NA talent, last year's champion Amsa, and Australia's best player Joshman all traveling out to compete against some of EU's best, except Lefton. And Europe kind of got rolled, as the Invaders took over top 8, with Triff being the only European to represent the region that far in the bracket. With Cody absent, Zayn and Jmook would be contending for another major win. Jmook did one of the craziest things and beat Hungrybox with Sheik, a feat only done by Plup and Kirby Kaze, and notoriously one of Sheik's worst matchups. Going into grand finals, Jmook was up 8-4 in lifetime sets versus Zayn. After defeating him in winners finals, they met again in grands, but Zayn turned it up in losers and was playing hot. Zayn would double 3-0 Jmook in grand finals, granting him his 2nd major win, and tying the lead with Cody and Jmook, with only 1 Melee major left in the season. But more on that later. We once again head back to Japan for the last Japanese major for the 2023 half season. It's also the first time the Chubu region had a major, the one between Kanto and Kansai. Notably, players like Dio, Masha, Sigma, and now Tsubaki were all players who would travel from this region, but now they get their shot to defend their turf from big Japanese threats like Ashimo and Mia. Unfortunately, Chubu couldn't quite do that. Tsubaki and Dio did make the top 8, were sent to losers early by Kaninabe and Mia respectively. Alice and Ryuo had incredible major runs, placing 4th and 3rd respectively, and Senra became the 2nd Jigglypuff to ever top 8 a major and Ultimate, but winners finals was as predicted, Mia versus Ashimo. And finally, in a close 3-2 set, Ashimo would defeat Mia in bracket for the first time. After losing 11 times in a row, Ashimo got his first win. But he still had to win the tournament, and of course, Mia came back to face off in grands. Ashimo lost the first set of grands in another close 3-2, but ran out of steam in the 2nd set, with Mia winning 3-0, taking another major event and truly showing he is the 2nd best in Japan, and looking to be top 5 in the whole world with his numerous major and tournament wins under his belt. While there was still another 2 weeks of events in July, the midway season of Melee and Ultimate's competitive seasons ended with Get On My Level in Toronto. This super major had big stakes for both games, as a number 1 of the mid-year ranking was on the line. With Ultimate, it came down to one player. As Fargo was able to pull off the victory here, he had a very strong chance of clinching that number 1 spot. But before we get to him, let's look at the overall event. Character Specialists went on a tear this event, making multiple upsets before top 32, with most notably Yoda Cage defeating Cosmos, and Big Duck Hunt Fan 7000 causing one of the biggest upsets of the year over Tweak. Top Top 32 played out a bit oddly due to big upsets and DQs. On one side, you had as expected. Sox defeated Leo once again to make top 8, and Sparko's dream of being number 1 took a bit of a hit, as Zamba with his Japan power-up was simply too much for the young Mexican prodigy. But the other was riddled with these upsets and DQs, leading to some interesting additions. Tilde found his spot in winners top 8 after defeating Kurama and Orange, only player who got himself to 9th with a mixed bracket of DQs and Tweak being upset. The other side of winners was taken by a Palatune player under many tags, but for now I will just call them Atreus. They upset Mr. R and Meister to get into guaranteed 5th place position. Top 8's loser side was rounded out by Light, Spargo, Riddles, and Tweak after a lengthy losers run from an early upset. Spargo would claw his way through losers bracket without any matches getting close. He made it to grand finals, having to face off against Sonics to win the event. But Sonics was playing too hot, and won his first super major event in his career, as well as his first major event this year. Spargo still ended with a great 2nd place to finish this season, but it wouldn't be until the rankings came out to know if it was enough to claim number 1. Melee was a different story. The 3 players tied for major wins this year were all in attendance. Jimuk with his early season dominance at Genesis and Collision, Cody with the mid-season victories at Major Upset and Battle of BC, and lastly the defending number 1 title holder, Zane, who just started ramping up this season with wins at Tipped Off and Fate. If any of the 3 won here, number 1 for the first season of 2023 was theirs. Jmook unfortunately had a tough day 1. He lost to Samus player Morse Code just before top 32, but in losers, he wouldn't fare much better, getting 3-0'd by Skurzo, leaving Jmook out of the race at a harsh 33rd. Cody and Zane kept chugging though, both successfully making top 8 winner side at the event. Joining them would be 2 of the remaining gods of Melee themselves, Mango and Hungrybox, and Kodorin, Moki, and Amsa all waited in losers, plus a new face who was on a career-defining run. Khalid would go on a pretty typical run to start, and lose to a player he was expected to in winners, Lod. But in losers, he went on a run, taking big names like SUJ and made it all the way to top 8, ending his run at 7th. Cody would go on to lose to Mango in winners, but be eliminated by Moki in losers. With both Cody and Jmook eliminated, this was Zane's shot to defend his title. Does he do it, or does another new face this year win a major?
The Mango plot armor hit different. The Mango plot armor hit different, Toph. I swear. Bear? Oh my. Oh no! Mango with that face like, God damn it.
Zane quickly sweeps Mango in grand finals and win his 3rd major this year, taking the number 1 slot for the 2023 half year with it. Ending July was the start of the new competitive season for Melee and Ultimate. We head to Central Mexico for the 10th edition of their biggest event series, Smash Factor X. The classic Mexican event was once again a super major for Ultimate and the biggest Mexican tournament to date in terms of talent. With Mexico being the home to Spargo and Leo, players from all over the world flew out to compete against them on their home turf. But Mexico's talent doesn't just end with them. Some new and old faces got to shine for Mexico, with Bayonetta player Mar causing the biggest upset of the event over Zamba. We got to see Snake extraordinaire Alandis compete against international competition again, and once again proved he could compete with some of the world's best. He landed at 9th with wins over some of USA's best, Zamba and Mutace. And finally, joining Leo and Spargo in top 8 was a name some may recognize from early Ultimate. While he showed a lot of potential in 2019, Mei didn't compete much post-pandemic. And when he did, his results were not up to the same par. But here, he showed not just a potential return to form, but put up some of his best performances to date, making his first major top 8 and upsetting Meister in the process. 2 of the 3 invading Japanese players both made top 8, with notably Shuton taking 3rd. And in a rare case, there were 0 players from the States who made it to the top cut, with Tweak ending at 9th. Europe though made waves, with both Gluttony and Siski taking a top 8 position. Siski in particular had one of his best tournaments to date, where he defeated Tweak, T, and Kameme. Grand finals though was once again between Spargo and Sonics, and this time Spargo would take home the gold, winning his first major in his home country of Mexico.
26 seconds!
What? There's no way! What is?
Oh my God, that would be! Please tell me that cannot take it! It's Spargo going from Prince to King!
Prior to SmashCon, the half-year rankings were released for Melee and Ultimate. They covered the top 50 post-Scuffed World Tour and ended with Get On My Level. To no one's surprise, Zayn took the number 1 spot once more for Melee, with the rest of the major winners following suit behind him. Number 5 ended up going to Moki, who has shown incredible consistency in their peaks this season. This really ended up showing a significant change in the times though, as for the first time since rankings existed, none of the 5 gods of Melee were in the top 5. While Mango and Hungrybox are the only 2 still competing and still ended in the top 10, it really showed that Melee is in a very different era of competition. Rounding out the top 10 was Amsa, Plup, and debuting for their first time, Kodorin. With Panda Global no longer in the picture, Luminosity stepped up to help fill the ranking void. They teamed up with the Ult Rank team, which was formed after PG Stats ended, forming LumiRank. Going into this, number 1 felt like a toss-up between Aquila and Spargo. Aquila had more major wins under his belt and hasn't missed a top 8 this year. Spargo on the other hand had a 5-0 record over Aquila, but some worse valleys in placements and overall worse loss quality. It came down to the wire, but with Spargo unable to win Gommel, Aquila ended up the victor, just slightly edging out the number 1 spot. That being said, with how close they were, the race was not near over for being number 1 by the end of the year. Mia, Sonics and Tweak rounded out the top 5, then Light and MK Leo, with Leo not being ranked first for the first time in Ultimate's offline lifespan, and lastly Riddles, Shuton, and Yoshidora rounding out the top 10, with players who came close like Gutani, Kameme, and Zamba not too far behind. With the rankings revealed at SmashCon, the stage was set for new storylines to form. Oh, and by the way, the number next to the player wins will be updated to reflect this ranking period.
For the love of God, and don't even. Thank you.
Oh, and a great. Oh, what? Up tilt. Whoa, whoa, oh, that's going to be enough. Do it, but man, he saw that advantage.
What is usually a stacked month, the end of summer of Smash kicked off with its biggest event of the year. Another year means, of course, another SmashCon, with the best of the best for each Smash game coming out to compete and celebrate the games they love in DC. SmashCon was the largest event for Ultimate this year, and was the highest entered Ultimate event post-pandemic. 2,607 entrants came out to compete, making it the 4th largest Smash event in history. And with loads of entrants comes loads of international top talent. And loads of talent means, of course, there were loads of upsets. Prior to top 32, the bracket was already becoming an absolute bloodbath. Dark Wizzy and MVD over Gacked, Icy Mist upsetting Sonics, Peanut putting Lil Mac on the map and defeating Kurama and Base Mage, WebJP having a breakout performance over Cosmos and SkyJ, Rivers over Louis Money, Mars over Onin, Andres FN putting Spain on the map and taking down Shuton. The list goes on, but most notably it was a player who pretty much cemented the narrative for Ultimate this event. Remember how it was looking to be a race between Aqua and Spargo for number 1 by the end of the year? Well, Spargo would take a nasty upset to LY, a core Japanese depth player before top 32 in a Game 5 set. He would then lose another Game 5 set to Aaron, placing 49th, and getting his worst placement in Ultimate post-pandemic. Top 32 was already an absolute mess of a bracket for any competitor. I'm not going to cover everything here, but before I jump to top 8, I want to give 2 quick shoutouts. The first is Noi, a Pokemon trainer and Olimar player from Japan, coming to the States for the first time and making it all the way to 13th, and the second is Shattuck, who had the best run of his year so far with a solid 9th place finish, just shy of making top 8. Japan once again showed up for top 8, taking half the slots, 3 of those on winner side. Ken would defeat Zamba, and Aqua would defeat Big D and Riddles, and after not getting the results he wanted at Battle of BC, they would make a standout run, beating Noi and upsetting Tweak to make top 8 winners. Between Neo, Shattuck, and LY, Korn was looking like an incredible character for this meta. Neo's run would ultimately fall short after an intense Game 5 with Aqua, running out of steam with a 5th place finish. The Buzz would take the last slot of winners, and the loser side would compose of Mars, proving he could still compete with little event experience in the modern meta, and ended up taking 7th. Didi, the Georgia prodigy who entered his first major this year, he lost to Mia before top 32 but went on a crazy losers run to also take 7th. Zamba bouncing back quickly after a rough Smash Factor and ending his run at 4th, and Mia, who had followed the Buzz in winners top 32, but finally got to face some North American players that we were eager to see, defeating the top 2 in the US to make top 8, climbing all the way to 3rd, just to be stopped by the Buzz again. Since Kagurimi 10, the Buzz was on the top of his game coming back to the States. He won CEO over Riddles back in June and took an impressive 2nd place here at SmashCon. While he once again came close to winning a major, he still proved he could keep up with Rosalina, a character who, may I remind you, is not top tier. Aqua would secure his first premier event win, solidifying himself a big lead in case for number 1 in the world by the end of the year. While one event doesn't define someone's season, Spargo had a lot of legwork to do if he wanted to keep up. Oh hey, because it's SmashCon, we get to talk about Smash Review for a few seconds. To no one's surprise, the top slots of the tournament were all Bayonetta, and the winner of the event was an old top 10 player from the end of the game's lifespan, Mistake. This would be Mistake's 3rd SmashCon win in a row for Smash Wii U, not having lost one since post-pandemic. We got another glimpse at Brawl's competitive scene this year, and crazy enough, this event had the most entrants of any Brawl tournament since 2014, when Smash Wii U released. After being sent to losers prior to top 16, last year's champion 686M would go on one of the strongest Brawl losers runs in the game's history. He would defeat active top players and Brawl legends alike, taking down Chia, Mike Ray 4, Cody, Hoenn, and double limiting player 1 to also 3-peat SmashCon, not losing one since post-pandemic. And this time, he did it without even using Meta Knight, going Ice Climbers and Peach the whole bracket. SmashCon has never been as stacked at the top level compared to other Melee majors, but 860 entrants is still nothing to slouch over. Oddly enough, it was a pretty tame event all things considered. There was a mid-tier showdown with a Donkey Kong vs. Ganondorf crew battle beforehand, where the DKs won, but ironically, the highest DK player placement was 33rd, while Mech brought Ganondorf all the way to 9th. After struggling to make grand finals at a major all year, we finally got to see Hungrybox compete again with some of the best. After a close Game 5 set in Grands though, Zane would prevail and win yet another major, having won 3 in a row and now a total of 4 this year. Zane pretty much looked undefeatable for the number 1 spot, and with only 3 majors left for Melee this year, anyone overcoming Zane was looking nigh impossible. They would have already had to win 2 majors, and win at least 2 of the Riptide, Shine, and the Big House, and most likely have a better head-to-head record for the year. Needless to say, both Zane and Aqua are looking unstoppable for taking home number 1 by the end of the season. Alright, last one. 64 is an odd one out compared to its sister scenes. It of course is not nearly as active as Melee and Ultimate, but is still much more alive than Brawl and Wii U. 64 has other majors throughout the year, but all of the competitors pretty much agree on all coming out to one singular event. SmashCon is essentially the championship event for Smash 64. It's the one constant super major they have every year. The players across North America, Japan, and South America all do their best to make it out to this one event. And it shows, as this was the 5th largest 64 event in this game's history. Having not missed a top 8 since his first debut in the US at SmashCon 2016, Peruvian legend Alvin would just fall short from his consistent record of making top cut, losing early in winners to last year's SmashCon champion Karaba, and falling to Melee 64 pro Wizrobe. Speaking of Wizrobe, he made his short but first appearance in a 64 major top 8 since 2019, taking 7th. One of the most interesting players in recent history for 64 is Nax. Coming from Chile, a region with not many tournaments and little history pre-pandemic in offline competition, he debuted on the 64 rankings last year at 3rd due to his SmashCon 2022 performance. Here, he continues his trend in top 8 finishes, placing 5th. Mercy, Super Boom Fan, Kiyoshiki, and Karo Karopi all filled out the rest of the top 8, but the main story of the event revolves around the players who fought for the title. Karaba, the ongoing #1 player from last year and the title holder for SmashCon, and Isaiah, a Smash legend who never can be counted out in competition. Karaba defeated Isaiah 3-1 in Winners Finals, but Isaiah came back to Grand Finals after defeating Super Boom Fan in the Swift 3-0. Karaba has been stuck as the bridesmaid so far this year, losing both 2023 Spring Kanto and Battle Gateway 41 to Kiyoshike. But with Kiyoshike already out, he was looking to finally get his big first tournament win this year. Isaiah though was no slouch. While Isaiah has one major win post-pandemic, taking Keystone 5 back in 2022, he hasn't won a super major since all the way back in 2014, which was Apex. Two top-notch titans of their craft collide. One, a defender to his throne he has built in the last few years, and another, a legend looking to reclaim their glory and proving Time's Arrow has not rusted their status.
For the invulnerability, and he's able to start a combo here. Oh, man. Almost got a grab off the side flat there. There's no jump here? There's no jump! Oh, the armor! Jake goes for the fair, just misses. Oh, and that's gonna be it! And we have a 3-0 reset! The tech chase, but the armor, it doesn't matter because he lands it! Oh, that reverse bear, let's see what he does with this. Run off to the nair, still no jump! Oh, and a great... Oh, what? Great bear to get that grab, and the get-up attack down there. Slam! The backer breaks over with the second! No, a sweep! Oh, sweep it would be. Because it would be a 6-0 sweep against the guy that beat him. Oh, and he lost his jump, and that's it! Isaiah completes the 6-0 sweep and takes his first SmashCon championship and is back on top of the Smash world.
It wasn't even close. Isaiah put on a masterful performance, completely shutting out Karaba in both sets of Grand Finals. Isaiah claims the biggest tournament of the year, as well as his first SmashCon title, and continues to be one of the greatest Smash players of all time. After SmashCon, we go back to Mexico for another major in just a month. The Delfino Mazda team returned with a full open bracket major event this time, featuring once again an international palette of players coming out to Mexico, though a bit smaller of a group this time. Japan continued to shine on the international stage, with both of their invading players getting 5th. Ken continued his top 8 streak, beating Mexican talent like Waka and Meister, and after losing the beginning of top 32, Gact went through a gauntlet of Mexican talent to make top 8, where he beat Siski to take 5th, giving us possibly the best pop-off of the year.
For a second there, but Gact's popping. One of the best pop-ups I've seen. Man, look at that, jumping out of his chair. Yeah, baby, talk to him, talk to him!
We got another excellent round in the ring from SkyJ, who finally got a win over MKLeo in the first time in his career, and beat Gact to take 4th. But one of the biggest sparks of the event was Shiny Mark. After claiming the best Pikachu player title back at Collision in March, he would usurp his career-defining run here. Shiny Mark would upset Gact, take a close Game 5 set over Gluttony, and then another Game 5 set over SkyJ to get into Winners Finals. There, he would lose to Spargo and claim 3rd place, giving Pikachu one of the best results the character has seen this year after struggling to find footing in today's meta. After being upset, Gluttony would go on a crazy loser's run, somehow overcoming some tough matchups for Wario, would ultimately end in 2nd behind Spargo, who showed that SmashCon was just a fluke, and he still is the best player in North America and capable of grabbing that #1 spot.
Can he get it? Can he finish this game? God. Yes, he can!
This man, Spargo!
August closes out with an event that has been a staple of the summer of Smash for years. We had the Massachusetts for another Shine, but this year was special, though bittersweet, as this was the last Shine that was going to be hosted. While it wasn't a major event for Ultimate, a decent amount of players still showed up to close out the event. Light takes home the gold, shockingly being the first New England player to ever defend their home turf in the series. But on the other side of the Smash coin, Melee showed up to give one of their classic major events one last hurrah. And this major was not short in its own surprises. Another Jigglypuff made a major breakout run this year, making top 8 for the first time in their career. SDJ had a clean run to top 8 winner side, as his biggest bracket threat to get there got upset by Zamu the round before. All of Zayn, Cody Schwab, and Jmook were all in attendance, and the latter two had to take the tournament if they wanted even a shot at taking number 1 over Zayn. Jmook would falter in winners, losing to Amsa before top 12. He would still make the top 8 on loser side after defeating Crudo, but would have his tournament life ended by Aklo in a tight Game 5 set. The chances of Jmook to claim number 1 at the end of the year at this point were pretty much over. Zayn and Cody though met in winners finals. Their set record was pretty close so far this year, with Zayn having a slight lead in set wins with a 4-3 record. This event could really go either way. Cody dismantled Zayn in their first set, winning 3-0, but of course Zayn would rise back to winners, ending Aklo's run in a quick 3-0 at third. Zayn quickly clapped back, reverted expectations, 3-0ing Cody in the first set of grands. This tournament would determine the fate for the biggest rivalry the scene had this year. Would Cody be able to regain his composure and be able to challenge the Hero King for first, or would Zayn rightfully reclaim his throne?
I like that slow ball. That's the first time he's thrown that mix up in too. I don't remember seeing him do that in any second set grand finals, having to go to the final destination twice. He can do it. Man, he saw that in and then back to the building. Back to the building. I'm the only one. Oh, no.
Take it home. No. What was that? It's up there. Cody Schwab. He's off the stage.
Cody stands his ground, and after a close Game 5 set, ties his set record with Zayn, and is now just one step closer to achieving every competitor's dream, number 1 in the world. With the scene set and neither player entering Riptide, everyone was looking to the big house to see how the climax unfolds. But we will get to that in October. Shine ends with the most suiting way possible, with 2 Foxes winning the main event, sending off the character's namesake event with one last blip.
Yes! He has no limit! He has no limit! But he's... Yeah.
先を行きたい空中後ろ外に追い出してこれは
Paid off Slippy! I'm some paid slow!
September brings us back to France for the biggest European tournament in Ultimate history. The organizers behind King of Fields hosted a brand new larger super major, Terra. Outside of Europe's best, new invading talent came to Europe for the first time. From North America, Spargo, Tweak, Light, and Zamba, and from Japan, Yoshidora, and making their international debut placing top 25 in the world, Jogabu, plus other returning talent to France like Base Mage and Takara. While Japan and North America had been considered stronger regions than Europe, the Penguins were able to pull notable upsets to defend their home turf. In winners, young French star Rafflo 3-0'd Yoshidora, Netherlands best player Super Semi beat Jogabu, upcoming French player Crêpe Soleil defeated Zamba, and Mr. R beat Cosmos. In losers, Siski and Tarek took down Jogabu and Takara respectively. After successfully making top 8 at every international event that multiple Japanese players went to this year, this was the first time they faltered, as Zamba eliminated Yoshidora at 13th. The big surprise run of this tournament though goes to the young Steve player from Sweden with one of the tags in Smash. If you have been paying attention to the European Wi-Fi tournaments, it wouldn't come to us as a surprise to see Big Chungus make top 8 this event. After losing to Light and losers, Big Chungus would defeat Crêpe Soleil and Base Mage to take 7th. EU talent made up half the top 8, with Rafflo and Bloom for Evan losers and Glutini in winners. Bloom defeated Zamba and joined Rafflo for 5th, and Gluto got sent to losers in a repeat match from Delfino Mazza by Spargo. It was looking like once again, EU was once again going to defend their home turf from invaders at their post-pandemic majors. But then, Glutini did this.
If it's possible, last life right here.
He has no limit. Going to be option of Tweak. He wants to get the web.
The positioning is so good from Gluto. The fight! What? That's gonna do it!
Glutini wins Terra and takes home the biggest EU tournament this year, right in his own backyard. With his collective runs from Delfino and Terra, it was looking possible that he would end this year top 5 in the world, shutting out any US talent for the first time probably ever in Smash history. On the same weekend was Maisuma Top in Japan. The 14th edition of this tournament wasn't as stacked as previous ones this year, but that meant the NEV competition was tighter, and big runs from new names were for certain in the cards. We had multiple new players making top 8 of the major for the first time. Since the first time of fall of 2019, Banjo and Kazooie made top 8 of the major, with only Tweak doing it before when the DLC character was released. Torigiri became the first true Banjo main to do it, beating top 100 players like Hero, Sasusoro, and Senra to take 7th. Another was a Kansai Mario player on the rise this year. Snow debuted in the top 100 during the mid-year ranking, and finally had his major breakout tournament here, beating Kani Nabe and winning the Ditto against Now. All the way up in third was another Kansai character specialist we have seen competing since Ultimate's release. After showing promise in the first half of the year, the Inkling player Showers went on a crazy run. Besides multiple top 100 wins, they got a big top 20 win over Ashimo in the process. But the true highlight of this event was Roseasu. After being one of the 2 top 50 players to not have made top 8 at a major yet this year, Roseasu went above and beyond. He got his best major placement ever, taking second place at this event with his sortie combo of Marth and Byleth. But to no surprise, no one was a match for Mia, who at this point was only really stonewalled by Aqua in bracket. Mia would take his 6th major this year, and starting to even potentially build the case for number 2 in the world by the end of the year if he's able to overcome Aqua when they face again. Next we head to Ohio for their home tournament series Riptide. While Riptide didn't hold the same accolades as the other major events for Melee and Ultimate, it was still quite the large event. Hey, easy from the future of recording this, apparently Liquipedia added Riptide back as a major for Melee, so yeah, it was indeed a major this year. Okay, back to the video. Greenies took home the gold for Ultimate. He lost to Aaron in Winners Top 8, made his way back to Grand Finals, and took the rest of the event in a dominant fashion, not dropping a single game in losers. For Melee, none of the current top 3 were in attendance, so the field felt much more competitive. After a strong but short start of the year at 4th at Genesis, 2nd at Major Upset, and winning CEO, Plup came through once more, taking first over Wizrobe, Axe, and Aklo.
He's camping the edge, bro, but he's...
That's
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Plup gets it done.
It's your Riptide 2023 champion.
Alright, back to Japan once more for a special event. Sumobato has been a long-time running regional series for the Japanese scene, traced all the way back to 2009 hosting Melee. But this time, they ran a special 2-day event called Sumobato SP Ultimate, which ended up becoming a major for the Kansai scene. Debuting in a major top 8 for the first time was Rarukun, a Luigi player who was just shy of top 50 in the mid-year ranking. They notably defeated Yoshidora, Snow, and Ashimo, and ended their run at 4th. But crazily enough, that was not the highlight of this event. If you followed Ultimate during 2019, you might be familiar with the next player's name. Ron debuted as 50th on the Fall 2019 PGRU rankings, causing some unwarranted controversy, despite having top 8s and strong results. Come back around to 2023 and he is back to competing despite infrequently winning a small Sumobato and getting some solid top 32 placements at Maisuma Tops, but never really showed signs for that potential return to top 4 mic in 2019. After losing to the hero player Akakikusu in Winners, it was looking like another one of those events when he went to Game 5 with Sumosuto, but Ron clutched out and broke into top 16 for the first time post-pandemic. Then, he swept Ryuo and Dorimigi to make top 8, his first one in the major since Umabura SP7 in 2019. But it didn't end there. He defeated Snow, Masa, Rarukun, and even cleanly 3-0'd Mia, finding himself in Grand Finals and the best run he has had in his career. His run though ended at 2nd, as Aklo once again continued to terrorize Japan, winning another major event. Okay, time for a little break from serious competition as we head to Arlington, Texas. Last year, a new multi-game charity event was started called the Off Season. This year, they returned with a sequel event and featured a Melee Invitational and a Smash 64 Open Bracket as headliners. All the Smash charity goals were met, including some fun additions to the stage list. Past legal stages were unbanned for this event, with Corneria and Mute City legal in Melee, and Saffron City and Hyrule Castle legal in Smash 64. Other fun sessions were met, like new stages in doubles, 5 stocks in Grand Finals, and the Melee and Call of Duty caster swapping games. They're probably thinking, easy, why are you covering this event if it isn't notable to the narrative of the video? I don't know. AMSA won the event for the 2nd time in a row, taking home a nice 10k earnings and beating Fiction, J-Mook, Zane, SUJ, and Cody Schwab. In 64, Nax came from Chile to snipe the event over Wizrobe, only dropping 1 game the whole tournament. The following week we head eastward to Houston, where National 64 event was taking place. Smash Tover event tracked in multiple top talent from across the Americas, and with Nax nearby from the off-season, he decided to come on over and invade this event too. And once again in dominant fashion, Nax found himself another Texas event win, defeating strong players like Josh Brody, Zero, and KD3 to win the event.
Good DI, but too much DI.
Just like Nax. Just like Nax. Just like that.
In case you haven't noticed the pattern yet, September concludes back in Japan for Delta 5, a super major ultimate event. The winner of this event was granted a flight to Port Priority 8 in November, which is building up to be the big international crossover event of the fall. While just shy of 300 entrants, this event was incredibly top-heavy, with Japanese top talent vying for a spot to compete overseas. We got to see a breakout run from the Robin player Leaf, getting 13th and giving what was most likely the best Robin run we've seen at a major to date. After a lackluster spring, one of Japan's longtime players, Niyotono, disappeared from competing for a while, with this being his first event back since early May, and the break must have been needed, as he stormed through this event to take 7th, taking down top 20s players such as Kameme and Zachary in his path of resurgence. We saw returning veterans of take top 8 like Jogabu, Jagaimo, Ken, Yara, Mia, and Akala, but making the biggest wave was Kyushu's new star player. After making top 16 at Kowloon 5 and Kaguribi 10 back in the spring, Hurt ascended to a new level of play. Winning 4 of the 6 events he entered afterward, a major top 8 was looking inevitable at this point. Hurt fell to losers after a close game 5 with Kameme, but one of the best losers run of this year. He defeated Reno, Leaf, and Shuton to make top 8, and continued his run with wins over Niatono, Ken, Yara, Mia, and even managing a win over Akala. Hurt was primed to win his first big major event, but unfortunately for Hurt, Akala would take the second set in grand finals after an incredibly close game 5 set. But Hurt's run wouldn't go unrewarded, as he won the fight after poor priority with Akala already attending, meaning we get to see how Hurt would hold up on the international stage. Akala is looking like an inevitable number 1 at this point, and with Kaguribi 11 just around the corner, it really started to become a question if anyone in Japan could truly even stop him.
You never know. You got nothing to say there. You gotta take the stock. Bitch, is it happening? Oh, you made this before. Different here. Down here. What's the bitch? Oh!
October continues Smash's incredibly busy fall, with Ultimate having 5 majors across the whole month. We stay in Tokyo for the premier event, Kaguribi 11. Japan has gone to the point that with little international crossover, they are holding premieres, the highest tiered event on Lumi rank. Japan truly has stepped into the position of Ultimate's main powerhouse, with event volume and player skill sharply increasing this year. But there was one international player who came in and made huge waves at this event, even if he failed to make the top 8. Flo was the only European here in Japan, and made a run all the way to 17th. He pulled one of the most unexpected upsets of the year, taking down Proto Bonham in winners, and got another top 25 win over Jogabu. He even came close to defeating Akala, but Akala is a known statistical game 5 menace, and clutched out the set. Flo would end up falling to Hurt in losers. Proto though would take his worst ranked placement at any event since December 2019, ending at 25th with a win over Kameme but losing to Yara. Hurt took his hot momentum from Delta and came in swinging, only to be upset by early Brawl veteran Etsuji, a Diddy player who was top 50 most of Ultimate's lifespan, but doesn't compete as often nowadays. But that didn't deter as Hurt remained solid, defeating veteran Kuro, Ryo, one of the best Toon Links level 1, Flo, Yara, and Shuton to take 7th. Unfortunately, he ran into a bit of a tough matchup to get further. Zachary came back to compete once more, and this time going predominantly Dark Pit over Normal Pit for potential better conversions off of his arrows. He'd fly into 5th year, taking down Snake Extraordinaire's Hurt and Dio. Kaninabe hit his new peak, taking big wins over Kameme, AIM, and Shuton, and claiming the best Fox title in Japan. After struggling to make top 8 since May, T would finally chump up the competition into top cut, showing a potential return back to his top 10 form. Once again, the top 3 would consist of what is inarguably now at this point in time Japan's best 3 players: Akala, Mia, and Yoshidora. Yoshidora would place 3rd, and our main rivalry this year would take center stage once more. Mia would take close game 5 set in winners finals, finally finding another victory over Akala after 4 different encounters since last time in March, with 3 of those going to game 5. But in grand finals, Mia would do it again, this time 3-1, winning his first premier event. And to celebrate the great victory, he decided to test his skills in the States the next week. Next, we head to Waco for the return of the Texan Major Rise and Grind, the first fully Steve Band Major event. Going into this, everyone was looking at 2 players: Mia, hot off his Kaguribi victory, and Gluttony, who in the past month has ascended as a threat into the top 5 in the world, winning notable events Terra earlier and Rewired Fest last weekend. But standing in the way of these two's confrontation was one of the wildest brackets of the year. Upsets reigned everywhere, truly living up to the name of the event. Known low-tier hero Peanut has been on quite the upward trend these past few months. I would put up one of the best low-tier runs in Ultimate's history, making it all the way at the top 16 with solo Little Mac, who, which may I remind you, is considered the 2nd worst character in the game. In a shocking turn of events, MK Leo would have his worst tournament results since Uber Bear Japan back in May of 2019, getting upset by Texas Mario Skinny the Pooh in a shocking 3-0 upset. He'd end up getting knocked out at 17th by Riddles, who was upset by Base Mage. While Riddles would nab a win over Ultimate's GOAT, he'd end up falling to Jazzo for 13th. Texas would truly rise to the occasion, with Shaq making a major top 8 for the first time in a year, and Munis and Lima taking 4th and 3rd, both making their 2nd major top 8 of the year. Speaking of Bayonetta, a brand new face would break into that exclusive Top Cut club, with Ohio's own Geist beating MK Big Boss, Goblin, and Base Mage to take 7th. We got to see a return to form for the flirty and WoW player Anathema, who after a stellar 2022 never really found his footing all year. But here, at the same event where he had his best run ever last year, will show he's back again to compete with the best. To round out the top 8, Luto wasn't the only European here. Germany's best player Tarek was on a journey traveling to events across the states this month, and kicked it all off here. He took 5th place, becoming the 3rd European in Ultimate history to make top 8 at an international major event. But as predicted, me and Gluttony would both meet in grand finals, with Gluttony on the loser side due to dropping a set to Lima in the winner's top 8. Gluttony would get his run back, throwing to Texan Bayo, and proceed into this duel of destinies. Mia would be the one to take home the belt this year, as he defeated Gluttony 3-1, also notably taking home his true first North American major win. We finally head to Michigan for what has been one of Melee's mainstay events throughout the years. The Big House 11 was Melee's last major, and as always was a super major, with 1,000 plus attendees raring to compete. Everyone who was somebody was here, except Leffen. And that means, all upsets. Day 1 wasn't too impactful on the top level, with most notably Peach player Samaras clinching a Game 5 set over Sunsei, and Junebug continuing to push the Donkey Kong meta, winning a close set against top 20 player Magi, also in a Game 5 set. But Day 2 in top 64, whoo boy. From small upsets to Salt over Joshman, Amsa over Hungrybox, and Moki over Wizrobe, to big upsets like Michigan veteran KJH defeating Kodorin, Canadian Jigglypuff player Faust defeating Jmook, and most importantly, the best Samus in the business, Morse Code 762, beat Cody Schwab 3-1, with the biggest upset factor of the event. Now, it looked like Zayn was going to be the uncontested number 1, is what I would say, but previous Big House champion Amsa beat Zayn before top 8, granting himself a place into the winner's top cut. Speaking of, let's get into the top 8. Amsa, Plup, Moki, and Mango all took up the winner spots with no clear favorite between the 4 to make grands. Losers though was Zayn versus Aklo and Hungrybox versus Cody, meaning that the best in the world was still here to play. Plup cleaned up Amsa in a quick 3-0, and Mango would take down Moki in the close set, priming himself to finally win his 5th Big House. In losers, Cody and Zayn cleaned house, and what would have been grand finals as happening in losers semis. This set determined whether Cody even had a shot at being number 1, as he still would likely need to win the major to take it. But if he failed here, Zayn would have it on lock. Cody would not just have to beat Zayn, but Mango and Plup to win. Here we go.
Right, and Zayn would just kind of sound, you gotta take it up a little bit more. Right. Yeah. Not necessarily that.
Zayn's in. Down tilt.
That's gonna do it!
Right now for Cody, what is down tilt? Hit confirmed and gets the edge. Yeah, what is the angle?
Oh, wait a minute.
He doesn't
He's dead. Cody.
He made some great decision making with these downers. Yeah, actually kind of.
There it is, the back throw. He had to hit his down throw with the ledge.
Portal's gonna start knocking down.
Club's gonna be.
Oh, and now all this! Turning to Princess Zelda! And Cody! Cody to win. Slightly fast right now.
Yeah.
Heck chasing with Nair. Oh! I like that. Yeah, once you miss that first set, you're really not hitting the second one. Edge guard again. Oh!
Stack of needles. Got a golden stack. Shine.
Needles get baited out.
Down tilt. Oh, he's getting
this is damage. 80-0 right now. The first attack. What's it gonna be? Where's that up smash? 150. You can't lift that.
Cody Schwab, can you just say the names one more time for me, Cole?
After 10 sets in a row, Cody Schwab completes one of the most impressive losers run in modern Smash. He won the Big House 11 and now carries 4 major victories, the same as Zayn. He barely edges Zayn out in a 65 head-to-head, and generally has more event wins in regionals and attendance, but he does have worse losses in comparison. So, it'll come down to what Melee ranking panel values. Well, it normally would have, but more on that later. October ends with a triple-decker of Ultimate Majors on the same weekend. We head back to Japan again for 2 of them. First in Kansai, the smallest of the bunch, Maisuma top 14.5 in Hyogo. Maisuma ran 0.5 tournaments usually for something special. They ran a 22 and under bracket as 13.5, and this one, instead of being in Osaka, was in Hyogo. And somehow, the same weekend, SkyJ from Mexico just happened to be in Japan and came out to compete. He would fare well, managing to make top 8 with a 7th place finish, notably beating Raru before losing to Yoshidora and pulling an unfortunate matchup against Doramigi and his Min. Speaking of which, Doramigi makes top 8 for the 2nd time in his career. We had another small Japanese breakout run, as Japan's best Rob Sasusoro made his first top 8 ever, beating the likes of Ryo, Senra, and Masa for 7th. Kainabe would secure another major top 8, placing 4th, starting to form some notable consistency in Japan's top ranks. And of course, the event winner was none other than Akla, who would only really struggle against Karage and Yoshidora, but still managed to win the event without dropping a set. On the other side of Japan and Kanto, we had Saibugeki 15. The most notable run to come from this event came from an upcoming top 100 Steve, Luigi, and Roy player named Yamanaction. They made a clean run all the way to winners finals, defeating Yoshi, Ashimo, and even getting a top 10 win over Shuton, and had his best major performance to date. He'd end up taking 3rd after losing to Mia, and then losing to run back against Shuton. Shuton and Mia would face off in grand finals. While Shuton has beaten Mia before to win majors this year, their record for the current season was 5-3 in Mia's favor. This match was not even close. Mia would slap 3-0, winning his 3rd major this month and starting to look like the number 2 player, if not potentially getting close to maybe being number 1 by the end of the year. The last major of October in this trad was in Miami. Luminosity Gaming and EMG teamed up to bring Luminosity Makes Moves Miami, a successor to the Let's Make Move Miami Miami from last year and was the first Steve banned Super Major. Tri-State had another rising star player make a huge breakout run. Sheik was always a character that people felt had the potential to go far, with some proof already from AIM's success in Japan. But with Void's relative activity in competing, there wasn't any comparative success in North America. That was finally remedied at this event, as New Jersey's WebJP made his case as the best Sheik in the land, upsetting Light, Goblin, and Neo to take 9th. And proving his vote in for Watch the Throne occurring later in the year was not a fluke. Kola jump scare. After some middling performances at Battle of BC and MomoCon in May, Kola decided to take a hiatus from competing. He made his triumphant return to this event without missing a beat, making his second major top 8 of the year after not competing for 5 months. He took a big win over Zomba and stopped WebJP's run in winners to make top cut, but unfortunately just missed a win over Spargo in a close game 5 set. Ran out of steam in losers to take 5th. But even with Kola's big return, he still wasn't the biggest star of the event. After months of looking like he was going to break into the top echelon of competition, Shaq finally had a tournament run that was long overdue. After falling to Spargo in winners, Shaq would go on an absolute tear, defeating MK Leto, Riddles, Zomba, and Kola to take 4th place, getting his best tournament result to date. He was stopped by the Buzz, found himself another strong NA tournament result at 3rd, but Grand Finals went as expected. Another Spargo versus Sonics for the gold. Sonics would defeat Spargo 3-1 in winter finals, but in the inevitable run back in Grands, Spargo would win after 2 game 5 sets in a row. Truly, these two were on another level compared to their North American peers. I actually voiced a video over at Luminosity's Smash channel, breaking down this event and their rivalry. So if you're interested in more of the nitty gritty here, I'll leave the link in the description below for y'all to check out after this video. With that though, the top 3 players in the world all won majors this weekend, with Aqua just edging out total major wins over Mia for the year, and Spargo slacking a bit behind.
139 and climbing another forward throw. Sonics in a very tricky situation. Gets back onto the stage, rolls back on, gets called out by the forward tilt, and that's going to be Spargo as your Luminosity Makes Moves 2023 champion.
Oh, yeah. Can't
and then down here.
Let's go, Soto.
Oh my. 当たって復帰のルートが難易度が上がる。爆弾から空中攻撃。But try to back air me. Dash attack frame 4.
November finishes up the autumn of Smash with events once again spanning the whole month. First up with the return of Inca Fest, Peru's 64 major event that capped off the game's competitive year. Peru had to defend their home turf once again. Top talent from both US, Japan, and Chile coming out to compete. Peru was able to shut out any US player from making the top 8, but was up to their best player Alvin to stop the rest. Looking to claim the crown over Peru's star player were big threats Wario and Kuraba from Japan, and the recently on the hot streak Chilean Nax. After a close game 5, Alvin would manage to overcome Wario, but wouldn't be able to pass through Nax, would make it to the grand finals to face off against Kuraba. After multiple runner-up slots at 64 majors this year, Kuraba finally had the chance to take one home. These two faced off last at SmashCon, where it was a swift 3-0 for Kuraba, and previously at SmashCon 2022, where they faced off in grand finals, and Kuraba won 3-0 as well. So, here's what happened. This time wouldn't be too different, and while Nax was able to take a single game, Kuraba would finally secure a major win this year, putting him as a contender to achieve #1 in the world once more. Next, we head to Brooklyn for the Function 3. The national event brought out Tri-State's best, and even the return of Slug, the Ice Climber player who made top 10 in 2022. Slug had a pretty solid showing, taking 5th place with wins over big names like Josh Mann and J-Mook. Other Tri-State talent showed up, with Kem dropping in losers before top 8, but taking down Fiction, Kevin Maple, Slug, and getting the run back against Hacks for the bronze. Aqua would turn up to defend the home turf, tearing through bracket and top 8 to make grand finals, with Hacks being the only player to bring him to game 5. He defeated longtime veteran Captain Falcon player S2J in winners finals, but S2J clutched up against Kem and a chance to prove that SoCal is better than Tri-State. S2J has had a quieter year than years past, placing the lowest he has ever ranked in the mid-years ranking since he debuted at 19th in 2013. But here, he finally got the performance we usually expect from Johnny, having already defeated Magi and Slug, and then double limiting Aklo in grand finals, with set 2 being a total shutout. Hopefully, this will be the start of S2J's rise back into the top 20 going into 2024.
So much.
Punches, it's over! It's over, Johnny!
Let's go!
Afterward, we head to Seattle for the last international crossover event for Ultimate. Port Priority 8 was one of the most stacked events in terms of international talent, with North America, Europe, and Japan bringing out their best to compete for one last Grand Slam-esque event. And oh god, where do I even begin? Upsets, upsets everywhere. Before we even get into top 32, we had Umeki over Zamba, Online Legend Kiragashi over Zamba, Skyjay over Reels again, Hero Player Beast Mode Paul over Gluttony, Skinny the Pooh over Shuton, Tarek over Shuton, Realize Pac-Man Rock over Quick, Nathva over Neo, Embo Z over Base Mage, Kainaba over Tweak. I probably didn't even come close to covering all of them, but take my word for it, Ultimate was looking as competitive and high level as ever. Top 32 is no different. Nathva went on a great run to 13th, Cole had another solid event finishing 9th, 17th place was cursed with players you expect to make top 8 at any major, with most notably Spargo and Gluttony finding themselves fall here in the Shark Pit. Umeki continued their insane run, defeating Skyjay, losing to Aqua in a close game 5, but then beating Hurt to make top 8 loser side. Hurt was here too, winning the fight from Delta, and took 9th, beating solid NA players in T, and Japan just in general went crazy. Ken finally defeating Spargo and making winners top 8 again in the US, Aqua and Miyakuni making winners top 8, Kaninabe coming to the US for the first time and not just beating Tweak but also MKLeo and Onin to get losers top 8. Japan took up 5 of the 8 spots in top cut, with Sonics, Mutace, and Light joining them. Top 8 was something. 2 Sonics, a Peach Mirror, a Fox Mirror, and Japan's best. In close, exciting game 5 sets, Meki would overcome Mutace and Light would defeat Kaninabe, trading international slots. And somehow, their first time playing each other ever, Aqua would get demolished by Sonics, not being able to answer at all in the set and getting swept. Mia would once again sweep through Ken, also finding a spot in Winners Finals. Sonics would go on to defeat Mia, finding himself once again in Grand Finals on Winner's side. Mia though would meet him back there, as the rest of Japan took 3rd through 5th, with Mia finding another set win over Aqua. Mia then would take his moment to take the first set of Grands over Sonics to reset the bracket, but Sonics would come out on top, winning his first premier event and the biggest win he has gotten in his career. By now, the writing was on the wall. There was a clear established top 4 between Aqua, Mia, Spargo, and Sonics. And while the ordering was pretty set in stone for 2023, these 4 will most likely be the players duking it out for the number 1 in the world spot going into 2024, as only 4 out of the 33 majors this year didn't feature one of these players in Grand Finals if one of them was in attendance. Ult's new top class was here, and we'll see if anyone else will be able to break into their ranks. Even though the last major of Melee happened last month, we still have more Melee to be played, as next up is Arc Melee number 4 in France. While not quite a major on the scale of Ultimate scene, France brought in international talent to compete in the EU once more. Europe put up a solid fight, with Finnish Jigglypuff player solo battle defeating Spark to make top 8, along with Triff and Pipsqueak, but NA currently just seemed too strong for the region, as 1st through 5th was just taken over. Cody Schwab would find another event title under his belt, defeating Aklo and double winning Jmook in Grand Finals. We stay in France for another week to catch EU's last Ultimate major for the year, Ultimate Fighting Arena. UFA is essentially the EU's big fighting game tournament of the year, their equivalent to EVO. A few internationals showed up, including past champions such as MKLeo and T. Europe once again showed that they can defend their home turf, with Gluttony beating Base Mage, Siski defeating Kurama, and Naderyu making an electrifying upset over MKLeo. Most notably though was top 8, where Europe had the majority of representatives on the board, with Flo making his major top 8 debut. Siski would beat T in winners, and Rafa would finally get his win over MKLeo after losing to him in Grand Finals at King of Fields last year. Europe took home gold, silver, and bronze medals, with Gluttony winning his 3rd European major this year. With Europe now showing up for Terra and UFA, they've proved themselves to be able to compete at the same level in an international setting. It will be interesting to see how they continue to improve in what they do in 2024.
There we go, the pressure is adding up. Everyone to
The last event in November was Maisuma Top 15 Final, the last Maisuma Top to ever be held. The series itself isn't entirely going away, but the Maisuma Top brand was pretty much ending. So Kansai showed up to celebrate Maida-kun's event series one last time. It won't be a Japanese tournament without its off-meta results. Torigiri would once again take Banjo to top 8, and finishing one step higher this time at 5th, now matching Tweak's Banjo result back in 2019 as the character's peak major result, somehow beating better characters like Min Min, Shulk, and Wolf to get there. We see even more Inkling results in 2023, with this time Shiryuki defeating Komei to make top 8. But the main highlight would be level 1 bringing out the best Toon Link result ever seen in Smash Ultimate's competitive history, defeating Haru and Shiryuki and getting 3rd at the major event. Yoshidori would lose early to Komei, would go on a 7-set losers run to make grand finals. Unfortunately for him though, he just wouldn't be able to get past Mia, who has now gate-kept Yoshidori from winning 4 events this season and holds a 4-2 record over him for the year, and 5-3 lifetime. Mia wins and now ties with Aqua for most major wins this season, with both being at Watch the Throne to cap off the year. We'll see if either can win the full title.
That was Sonic. No!
Dropping it, drop the dash attack.
December concludes our competitive season with important events and season-defining run. First is Watch the Throne, an invitational acting as the spiritual successor to Summits. It ran a similar bracket structure, and some of Old's best were ready to compete, and most importantly, the 4 horsemen were here. At this point, a trend was starting to be noticed. 4 players have won every major that they've attended in the second season of 2023, except one, dubbing the group of Aquila, Mia, Spargo, and Sonics as the 4 Horsemen of Ultimate. And this would be the last time we see all 4 of them in the same room until 2024. 3 of the 4 cleared their pools, with Spargo struggling to take the top spot after dropping a set to Light. But all 4 would still start on winner's side of the final bracket. Even though he started on a tougher foot, Spargo took down all of his fellow horsemen to win the event, only facing them during the final phase. He would do so with Solo Cloud, even against Sonics, where you normally go Aegis. But most importantly, all 4 horsemen took the top 4 spots, showcasing their overall dominance on the field this year.
Of capturing his first Washington Throne Championship, and there it is, the pop-off deserved.
Also this weekend was Santa Paws, the last big open bracket event of the year, and the largest ever in Alabama. Ultimate had a plethora of strong talent that came out to compete, especially those who would not take part at Watch the Throne. Ultimate's event was dominated by Shattuck, who continued his hot streak from October to take home the gold at this national event. Melee concluded the year with this event, with a decent amount of strong talent showing up. But once again, Cody Schwab would look unstoppable, winning the last open bracket event of the year, defeating top players such as Godoran, Aklo, and most notably Jmook. With this event under his belt, it looked like Cody was pretty well set to finally take that number 1 spot. But there's actually one more event that happens to determine who takes number 1 for 2023 between him and Zayn. We're gonna save that for the end though. Ultimate concluded with another invitational in Washington, DC. During quarantine, Hungrybox held his box series of events and still runs the Coin Box, a frequent popular online tournament series. He took numerous champions from the years and had them duke it out in the series' first offline iteration. Siski had an incredible run to 4th, defeating Riddles. Lima qualified through the last chance qualifiers and took that momentum all the way to 3rd, plus took huge wins along the way. And of course, Grands was a repeat of Spargo vs Sonics, and this time, Sonics was prepared for the Cloud, taking the last major of 2023 competitive season.
All these misses.
There really is only one. And that's it! Sonics is your Coin Box IRL champion!
So, Ultimate's competitive season is over, but what about Melee? As I've been alluding to, there's been a neck-to-neck tie for first this season between Cody Schwab and Zayn, and either had solid arguments for number 1. With such a crazy race for number 1, there was only one way to determine who would take it. Let me introduce you to the match. Right after Big House, Ludwig approached the 2 players with the idea of first to 10 match determined number 1, and so an agreement between Cody, Zayn, and the Melee ranking team was made. And mid-December, these 2 would duke it out one more time to take home the title of best player in the world for 2023. Going into this set, Cody held the head-to-head record over Zayn for this current competitive season, with 6 wins over Zayn's 5. But if we look across the board, Zayn just edged out in lifetime matches, holding 30 wins over Cody's 28. These 2 were dead even in skill, and pretty much the same in head-to-head. This match could easily go either way, but in the end, it all comes down to one thing: whether a king will defend his throne and continue his multi-year reign, or if an usurper who has been grinding his way to the top will finally get to reap the reward of his efforts.
What are you doing with the Zayn? Dropping it, drop the dash tag.
Big shout out to Cody.
Zayn's on the grab.
Oh my god,
Look
what
at the
up to?
turnaround. Love that he goes out there.
Nice.
Yep. Barely going on right now.
Oh my god.
We're duking it.
Wow.
He's on a piggy.
Okay, wait for a little bit delayed on the spin after there. Red.
Oh, what a back jump. Should be it. Start playing down. I don't know if I'm playing down. He just gets harder and harder. He does that.
Like he was like, I can't do it. That's right, I remember.
It was after one really bad counter. I feel about it being 6-4. I'm just thinking I don't want to say it.
Oh my god, take 2 then. Oh, 2 socks thing. The Koopa.
There's no better feeling than hitting a down tilt of 50% against Bob.
Oh, he made it. Seriously, after that miss drop, too hard. It's too hard.
What a down tilt.
Looking really good for Zayn this game. Nice. Yep.
That's my guy Will right there.
Tell him when he's done something good.
Oh!
This is honestly more like Cody than anyone else. And he not throws.
Oh!
Josh joined the team, dude. It's just hashtag good job.
No! And he up-beats the other way so he doesn't hit Zayn. Cody has won the first to 10.
He is number 1 in the world.
The first ever solo Fox player claims number 1 in Melee's entire history. Cody Schwab wins 10-7, claiming the title of best player in the world for 2023. And that concludes all the tournaments that happened last year. But we're still not done. That's right, more character stats, baby! Alright, I talked a bit about Ultimate's full year a little bit back in my Does Ultimate's Meta Need to Change video. Quick overview of what was mentioned there. Steve became #1 for the first time for a full year of results. Characters such as Bayonetta, Corrin, Jigglypuff, Byleth, and Mr. Game & Watch have all seen increases in representation across the board. But on the other hand, Pokemon Trainer, Inkling, Chrom, and especially Lucina and Pikachu saw major fall-offs. Okay, how about some new info? Steve had the most event wins over any other character, though really, that shouldn't be a surprise. Steve had the highest representation in North America, while Diddy Kong reigned supreme in Japan and Samus in Europe. And Steve, Rob, and Aegis are the only 3 characters who were top 10 in all 3 regions. Let's finally talk about Melee. Obviously, Fox still makes up the meta of Melee. That will never change. Melee's characters don't move around a ton, but any movement is still worth looking at due to how central the meta is around these top tiers. Sheik takes second over Falco, and Jigglypuff finds increased representation in competition and breaks into the top 5, surpassing Falcon and Peach. But most surprising would be the movement in Melee's mid-tiers. Samus returns to the top 10, and Yoshi breaking in for what is most likely the first time ever. But most importantly, 15 characters now stand as meta-relevant, with a surge of success coming from 2 heavyweights. Ganondorf saw a resurgence, rising back over 1%, and had numerous strong results this year in comparison to its lackluster 2022. And of course, the Donkey Kong Renaissance. The monkey had stirrings of potential in the end of 2022, but finally went apeshit and broke over 1%, with multiple international reps taking the character to new heights. The last thing I want to cover is the rankings for 2023. Due to Isaiah winning SmashCon, he takes home the #1 ranking for Smash 64, which is his first time the legend has ever claimed the spot in an official ranking. He would be followed by Kurappa, Super Boomfan, Nax, and Karo Kuropi to round out 64's top 5. Currently, as the time of the video's release, there has been no 64 majors in 2024, so we won't see a large crossover until SmashCon. The new age of Melee was definitely ushered in this year. Schwab takes home the #1 spot after winning the match, becoming the first true solo Fox main to do it. Zayn followed behind as #2 of course, and Jmook, Moki, and Plup rounded out the top 5. The Era of the 5 Gods is officially dead, with Hungerbox and Mango taking 7th and 8th respectively. Currently in Melee, Cody and Zayn have been sweeping majors still, but we did get to see an incredible super major win from Mango at Tipped Off 15, winning his first major win since 2022, and his first super major since 2019. Ultimate had an international melting pot for their top 5, with Aklo claiming 1st, Spargo 2nd, Sonic's 3rd, Mia 4th, and Gluttony 5th. This would be the first time in any Smash game where there would be no players from the United States in the top 5. Light, Tweak, Yoshidora, Riddles, and Shuton claimed the rest of the top 10, with MKL just missing out at 11th. So that is everything from competitive Smash Bros. In 2023. If you liked what you watched, if you enjoyed this really long video, please consider subscribing, especially if you made it this far in. I'd really appreciate it. And also liking the video because, you know, helps out YouTube, all that other stuff. So you're probably wondering why this video took so long to make and a 2023 video coming out over 7 months now into the next year. Well, the unfortunate reality is just that as I was making this video, I kind of started learning a bit more and more that this isn't exactly the type of content I wanted to make going forward. There's a ton of different tournament recap channels out there, and they all do an excellent job. Like, they're all great. I'm gonna sprinkle them in on whatever the screen. Please go check them out. But I've kind of realized while I was editing this video that this isn't necessarily the kind of content I want to do. That doesn't mean I'm not gonna do this kind of video again. It means that next year there's gonna be a change of format. First and foremost, getting it out at a reasonable time frame because it's August. I'm recording this on August 1st. This is probably going out August 2nd. Way too late. But second, it's not going to recap all of that. It's more so going to be an overview of the storylines of what happened each year and not taking every tournament to kind of build those up, but more so focusing on the stats part and using that to tell the stories over the tournaments themselves. Pretty much focusing on the important and historical moments that happened in each year. And it lets me have more flexibility in actually talking about each game. If you notice, like, compared to last year, I didn't talk about Project Plus this year because the script, once it started getting longer and longer, and I realized this is going to be longer than 2022 video, and I think more happened in 2022 than this year. Yeah, at that point, it just became like I bit off too much for myself, and I needed to cut back. So that means with a shorter form and kind of limiting what exactly, or not limiting, but I should say putting more constraints on what the content is and not just going tournament will give me a chance to not just talk about the 3 main Smash games I really talked here, but also like highlight the Brawl community and Project Plus and what's there of Smash 4, and hell, maybe even other platform fighters. So once again, if you really like this style of content, thank you. I know that it might be a bit tough to hear that I'm not going to do this kind of video again, but I hope you guys enjoy what this turns into later in the future, as well as the other projects that I now have time to open up and start working on again. That's been the worst part of this. I just keep thinking of new ideas, and I already have video ideas for the rest of the year. So I'm so excited to start working on those and get those out for you guys, and please look forward to what those are. That also doesn't mean that I'm not going to ever do a really long form video again. It's just more so this kind of content wasn't exactly fitting for what I want to do in the future, and it took a lot out of me, and as a one-person individual like doing this, it's just I can't. It's a little too much. So if you've been around for the past year or you're brand new to this channel, thank you, and I'll see you guys hopefully soon, not a few months in between each video. But oh, and also important, if you are watching this before Supernova, now what is SmashCon's titled as, 1, I'll be there, so feel free to say hello, but 2, we're also doing the top 10 reveal live for Lumi Rank there, so make sure to tune in and check it out. All right, that's all I really wanted to say, so thank you so much. Shout out to my patrons. I'll figure out a real way to start doing that at the end of videos. And hopefully this is uploaded tomorrow and Premiere doesn't hate everything. Okay, bye!